We're going to start in about a minute or two, okay? Excuse me. We'll get at it in a minute. Just wait for a few more people to get in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. It's you guys gotta try this shit. Have you ever seen these pretzels, the cheddar ones? Shits are addictive though, man. Start eating them, you wind up eating like fucking half a bag and shit. Shit is good though. All right. Peace and greetings to all the true gods and goddesses on the path doing work. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Just to touch on a couple quick things. I know last time I was on, we had a which is obviously moving up the coast right now. We had a hurricane that was moving directly at us, and fortunate, it wound up turning as it came off the Bahamas, and well, first let me say this, man. If you guys had seen already any of the images from the disaster that hurricane created in the Bahamas, it's beyond words. I can't even put it into words. I can't even fathom what them people are going through. I mean, the place is just completely leveled. Barely anything is left standing. The flood levels are just beyond what the human mind would think could happen with a storm. You know, obviously we know the Bahamas is a very flat land. There's no mountains, there's water behind it and in front of it. And that hurricane probably took the worst path a hurricane could have taken, because it had all that open air and water to build up steam. Now, fortunate for people in Florida and horrible for the Bahamas, that thing just literally hovered over them for almost 36 hours. And that's just fucking beyond belief. You're talking about Category 5 wind gusts up to 220 something miles per hour. If you guys haven't had a chance to see the images, man, I tell you, when you see it, it's just, you shake your head. You know, you think of women and children, and you know, I mean, so there's really no words for it. Horrifying. I mean, there's a lot of aid groups and people trying to get together immediately here in South Florida to help out the Bahamas. I mean, they're sending helicopters in there. They literally got to rescue people because there's nothing left. I mean, literally, you had people. There's videos of people just grabbing what they could hold. There's videos of people just sitting in their car because they had to get out of their house, and then I got videos of people sitting in their car and their car filling up with water. I mean, just horrific. I mean, I don't even know how to put it in words to describe it. I mean, we're fortunate we dodged the bullet. That thing was headed right at us if it didn't turn. Now, obviously, building structures here in the States, a little bit more up to code, still would have had a lot of damage. I mean, a lot of those buildings in the islands, they're older. They're not really built to take that type of, category hurricane. I mean, I don't care what structure you have. When you're close to the water, you're in the direct path of that thing's going to create catastrophic damage. Now, I want to say something, but I want to be very grounded when I say this, and I don't want to sound like a fucking space cadet. So I want to make sure that this is explained clearly. When we did the ritual Friday night, at that time, I mentioned when I was on the air Thursday night, we had the ritual of the pentagram of Set that was put out 2 months in advance. Now, mind you, obviously, we didn't know the weekend that we were going to do the ritual of the pentagram of Set, that we'd have a hurricane looming. that would start to, come into play a few days before. Now, at that time, when, a few days ago, going into Friday night, the thing was still projected to come at us in some shape, form, or fashion. So I want to say this. I talked a little bit about it on a little clip I put up a few days ago, but I want to make sure I explain this clearly. Working with the pentagram is set, and the ritual is centered obviously on an aspect of Set called Set Typhoon, which is the god of chaos, the god of the desert, the god of storms. What I had, and didn't force anybody to do it, what I had asked, because in these rituals, there's collective and individual work. In our discussion before the ritual, I had mentioned to those that came that I was going to focus and connect the chaotic energy of this hurricane to the inner chaotic energy within us, and also focus on taking that energy and doing the best we could as a group to try to shift that thing away from us. Now, I want to make this clear. I don't want to sound spooky. I'm not saying what we did was the cause of why it turned, but in here, that's exactly the reality that we created. I definitely would like to think we had an effect on it. Now, I'll be honest with you. I felt from jump after that we weren't going to get a direct hit, but I'm not going to lie to you. I felt like we would have got something, and myself and I know others still did preparation, but I was confident we weren't going to get a direct hit. Now, I'm not going to bullshit and lie. Did I think the thing would completely turn and miss us? Wasn't sure. I know we put the work out there. I know I asked everybody that came to the ritual as far as the work that they did in that ritual to add or focus on that to some extent, because it was going to impact a lot of people. There's a lot of variables to saying that, yeah, it went through and did a lot of destruction before it got to Florida. But remember, the only thing we can control as magicians and adepts is our immediate environment and surroundings. There is an aspect of nature. There is an aspect to the, people talk about the micro and the macrocosm. But I do think we did have some effect in the work we did. But I want to say that again, sounding grounded. I don't want to sound spooky, and I don't want to make misleading statements. The power in ritual and work can be that effective and powerful. So again, it's as we know, if you've been following us, it's grazing up the coast. I mean, people are going to get some bad weather, but nothing on any level like the Bahamas just got bombed with. You understand? But keep them people in your meditations, not your thoughts and your prayers, because that's not going to do anything. Keep them in your thoughts, your meditations, and in holistic work. Try to send some energy that way, because fictitious thoughts and prayers isn't going to do anything for them people over there right now. Bottom line is, food, supplies, medicine, real tangible things is the only thing that's going to get those people back on track. So incorporate that in your work, and do what you can, because it's just, you've seen them damn images. It's going to take a while for them to recover. You thought the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico was bad a couple of years ago. This shit, much worse. Not saying that any catastrophic, cataclysmic event is fucking horrible, period. But I ain't never seen no shit like that from a hurricane. Anyway, wanted to touch on that. So we're here. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do it live tonight, but it has completely passed the area that I'm in here in South Florida. No power losses here, no damages, nothing. We got maybe just a small amount of wind and a very small amount of rain, but other than that, we didn't get anything. Everybody's good on this end. I know it's moving up the Treasure Coast right now, hugging the coast, going up Central Florida, North Florida. So they're going to probably get a little bit of impactful weather. But again, nothing compared to the Bahamas. So hopefully we ain't got to deal with that anytime again soon. But that's the risk of living in Florida. You want to live in paradise. That's, no matter where you live today, if it's not the freezing cold weather, snowstorms, blizzards, and hurricanes on the East Coast. It's fucking tornadoes in the Midwest, and then you got earthquakes out west. You can't escape nature. So, you know, you can't live your life in fear. You just do the best you can. You prepare the best you can, and you take care of your immediate environment and surroundings, and that's all you can do. That's the reality of it. Ain't nothing really spooky to it. So hopefully I don't get emails that, you know, like when Haiti got destroyed, people start saying stupid shit. Oh, you know, God punished the people in the Bahamas because some of them practice voodoo. I mean, this is the dumb shit you start hearing. These are the conspiracy theorists that start coming up with the stupidest shit. But anyway, so we did do the ritual Friday night. I'm sure you guys saw the clip. Also to the New York 11 crew, the NYC 11 crew, I did send a video link out for tomorrow night. I sent that email out for the link for us to get together tomorrow night. Just make sure you got the link. If you're watching this video at some point, shoot me an email and respond back that you got it. I'm sure most of you will. So you all should have got that email probably about half an hour ago. So, you know, barring that the weather's good, we'll have that get together tomorrow night at 8:30. All right. So make sure you got that link if you're part of that. And we'll do that. Next upcoming ritual, I'm pretty certain, because I just came off a lot of work with the spider goddess. We've never done anything with the spider goddess Arachne. And so some profound stuff has happened with her, starting with the trip and the ritual in New York. As I said before, I went home back to New York and took that trip. I had set up some stuff I was getting ready to do when I came back with Arachne, the spider goddess, but some stuff started with her there in the cemetery, which I know the NYC 11 crew was a part of. Came back, did the work. I'm not going to get into details about the personal experiences, but definitely am receiving that's going to be the next work for the month of September. So I got something in store for that. Look for that in a couple of days. We will have an event the last Friday of this month. And then October, obviously, that's the event that's been planned probably for almost a year now. We're going to have the 3-day Journey of the Black Adept Conference #2. It'll be our second. That's our annual event last weekend in October, the 25th to the 27th. I know a lot of you have been contacting me as we're getting closer now. 3-day event, presentations, workshop, classes, and we're going to socialize and have a little fun. Some of you have already contacted me about being on the itinerary to do a presentation. If you are attending, I'm trying to get some newer people to do a presentation, a workshop, or a class on the left-hand path or occult topic. So if you are interested and you're coming, several women on the itinerary. A lot of women this year. We had a few last year, but pretty much the females are dominating this one. There's still a couple spots left. Once space runs out, then we'll cut it off. As long as space and itinerary permits. So if you are coming, shoot me your topic and what you're thinking of doing, and space permitting, we'll get you on it. That's going to be October 25th to the 27th here in North Fort Lauderdale. If you want information on that, location, how to register for it, the whole nine, just send me an email. It's right in the description box. If you're interested in a consultation or a reading, send me an email, days and times you're available, and the time zone that you are in. Very important. I will let you know the availability that works for both of us. And if you are interested in a specific reading, be it a reading with the Voodoo deities or the Loa or the spirits of the dead, Egyptian rune reading with the Orishi, or a reading with the Goetia, Lucifer and the Goetia demons. Specify. If you don't specify, just kind of go with whatever I feel my instinct tells me. Give me at least 2-day notice to do that. I usually can get to everybody within 2 to 3 day window, unless you have a really crazy schedule and I'm jammed up. Same email, description box there, and the videos that you see should be on the screen there now, and it's in all the videos, khnum19@gmail.com. That's the upcoming stuff we got going on. The event in October, we will have a working at the end of this month. And I'm pretty certain it's going to be Arachne, the spider goddess. My instinct is telling me that after the work that I actually completed earlier today. So that's what we got going on. So kind of this one, I'm kind of just going to flow with it tonight. Wasn't sure really if we were going to come on and do anything because I wasn't sure with the weather. But as we got a clearer picture this morning, didn't lose any power. Everything is back to normal here. I took down. Well, I got the hurricane shutters that just lock. I opened everything back up. Long story short, we're back to normal. So I want to talk about. I thought this would be a good topic just to flow it for a little bit. And if you guys want to ask questions, just start. I'll kind of keep my eye on the chat. I'll kind of do it a little different tonight. I'll look at your questions. If you got questions, feel free to shoot some questions. I'll try to open the phone lines for a little bit tonight. So I just randomly, I've done a video or two on this in the past, but I want to go a little bit more in depth tonight on it. The deific mask and looking through the eyes of God. One thing that I'll constantly get a lot of emails on. How do I look at and approach deity? Well, first, let me say this. I know I came right on. Peace and greetings. Again, if you came on late, peace and greetings to everybody. I'll go through the chat. If I missed anybody, I'll try to address you the best I can. But if you got questions, feel free to type them in at any time. I'll try to keep my eyes on the chat. Or when I get done, I'll scroll to the top. I constantly get email. The concept of deity or archetype, what are they? Is it the same thing? What's the best approach to work with it? How should I go about it? You get all these kind of questions. Now, there's various approaches or methods I see from multitude of different people. All right, so I want to make that clear. One, there is no right or wrong way. It's personal. I can only share with you my experience, how I approach it. Not just myself. You'll see most people on the path of self-mastery, the left-hand path, will approach it in a similar way. Is it exactly the way I'm going to share it with you? No. Again, it's personal. There is no right or wrong way. And here's the thing. Don't get stuck in am I doing it right or wrong? The key determining factor in that is in your approach, are you getting results? I just want to make that clear. If you're getting results, that is the answer to your question. Don't second guess or question anything when you're getting results. Because again, remember, as I said many times before, the only person you need to convince and validate is yourself. On this path, we don't care what other people think. If something that we're doing doesn't appear right to somebody else, that's personal, that's irrelevant. That person has a right not to agree with it, like it, love it, or hate it. But other than that, it's some personal shit he or she would have to work through. If the practicing magician or adept is getting results and you can confirm it for yourself, that's all that matters. That's the mindset we need to start thinking, regardless of what it looks like to others. Because remember, everything on the path of working black magic, path of self-mastery, and not everything can be validated by some book or some documented information. When you're working with your subjective realm, unfortunately, not everything has an explanation, but there has to be harmony with the subjective and the objective. So working with deity, some people, let's start with some of the basic things that I see. And then I'm going to explain what actually is working with the deific mask and looking through the eyes of God. Now, you have some people who are on spiritual paths, whatever it is you call it. It could be left-hand path. I find there's still people who have this approach. Now, the first approach I'm going to talk about, I personally don't think it's the right approach because I think it's still in religion, and I think it could hold you back. But there are some who still utilize this. Now, again, having said that, I want to repeat something I just said a couple of minutes ago. If you're getting works for you, regardless how it appears to me or anybody else or whoever, it's irrelevant. Some people still look at a lot of these deities as literal external things that they focus on. That's, again, more in line with religious worship. First of all, we don't pray to anything on this path, all right? We don't worship, grovel, bow down, prostrate in front of any of these deities. That's all religion. That's back to how right-hand path philosophies and religious dogmas focus on an external deity and working your way in. That you must seek this mythological space spook god deity that resides somewhere out there in the skies and the heavens in order to understand yourself. That, in my opinion, is completely opposite to what this path is really about. All right. This path is simply about starting within, shadow work, understanding the real self, the true you, addressing your strengths and weaknesses. You must know your strengths and your weaknesses. In order to know the gods or the goddesses, you must know yourself. So shadow work is always something we talk about constantly. It's the foundation to this path. It's the foundation to doing this work. You must understand yourself before you can perceive forward. You can't understand God or goddess before you have a thorough understanding of yourself. So this path is about an inward journey out, not an outward journey in. Now, what people fail to, you're a person that works with the Egyptian deities or the Orishi in Yoruba, and you're saying prayers and you're giving offerings to Shango and Obatala, and you're getting results. What we fail to realize, still the driving force of the power behind it. Without your personal faith in it, not spooky faith. Like I always joke and say, people will say shit like, I left offering of bananas for Shango. Look, they're starting to rot and decay. He's eating the bananas. No, he's not. Anybody knows if you leave bananas out on your counter for a while and you don't eat them, they're going to start decaying and rot and turn. But see, the power you're giving it, if that's what you accept in your mind, then that's what it is, even though you might have an external approach. So people struggle with separating that, where they still have to have this external approach, because the trauma and the impact that we've suffered through religious doctrination, whether we grew up extremely religious, a little bit religious, but we've grown up in a society that's influenced by Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So it's in the schools, it's in the educational system, media, it's all around us. Regardless if you grew up religious, you're influenced by in some shape, form, or fashion, if not directly, but indirectly. All right. So that approach kind of puts you in that box, and people struggle to not understand or the concept that I'm always referring to with the 7 hermetic principles of Tahuti, right? I always refer that as a great starting point. The first principle, all is mental, mental is all, the universe is mental. Whether you're having an experience that appears to be external, you're doing an invocation, you're invoking a deity, and you have some type of, let's say, vision in that ritualistic work, and an image of whatever deity you're working with manifests in front of you. People confuse that as something external, not coming from within. It is, because the thought process starts in the mind. I mentioned something a few weeks ago. If anybody that's done work like that, and they say, yeah, well, I did work with Kali and she appeared in front of me. First thing I ask, I say, what did she look like? And the person will describe how they saw Kali. And if they really look and analyze it, they saw Kali based on subconsciously the images that they stamped in their subconscious mind. Now, if we went around the world and we asked people that do work with Kali, we'd have a variation. Some would see her looking this way, some would see her looking that way, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, why? How? What's the reason? The thing is, you're giving it life as you activate it in your psyche. You're giving the image and the likeness, and you're manifesting it in front of you, regardless if it appears as an external experience, because on the surface, that's what appears, because it creates the illusion of some separation from self. So the experience is manifesting like that, but you're still, the point of its origin is in the subconscious mind. So we have to make sure, if we're having those experiences, that we know how to put them in perspective and not get back into dogmas of religion and right-hand path philosophies that have you externally seeking for the creator or the God, when the only place you should be looking for that is within, in here and in here, because they all represent, whatever archetype or deity you're working with represents an aspect of your psyche. If you get motivated to work with one, that's an area in your life you're lacking. So people will say shit like, yeah, I'm drawn to Kali. Don't look at it like you're drawn to Kali because you're special and you're spiritual and get all spooky. You should really analyze, what does Kali represent? She brings tumultuous change. She's a road clearer. So maybe you need to look at your life, and maybe there's some road clear and some shit you need to fix, other than the fact some female that gets spooked out with I'm so beautiful and sexual and Kali, that's all surface random shit. Anytime you get motivated or spark or you're drawn to an archetype or deity, that's the area in your life you need repair. Because remember, every deity and archetype represents a certain level of consciousness. If it's Tahuti, it's wisdom. If you're dealing with Kali, Santissima Muerte, it could be clearing some aspect of your life spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and possibly financially. Road clearing work deals with all those aspects. But this is how you should approach deity. When you put on the deific mask, the difference, that's the first approach. Then you have some people that believe they're just symbols and they're concepts. And that's true to an extent. I'm not going to say that's completely true. Because why I say that's not completely true, this is why when you look in history, you can get a little bit confused, especially with Ifa. There wasn't just one Shango, right? Anytime, whether it was the Kemetic deities, whether it was a pharaoh who took on the name of a Natiru, whether it was somebody in Ifa that took on the name of Shango or Batala, anybody that was raised to a certain level of consciousness was given that title. See, it's a seat, it's a title. There were many Shangos or Batalas. Now, this is also why you see that's broken down into different paths. There's not just one path of Shango or Batala, Oshun, Yamaya, Ogun, Oya. There are multiple paths because each one represents a different aspect of your psyche. For an example, Oshun, who is my guardian, Orishi, right? She has the path that deals with, materialistic finances and physical desires. She can assist females' pregnancy and children. One of the paths that's powerful with her. She's a sorceress, a magician, an old woman. Some describe as a witch type figure that resides down by the lake and practices witchcraft and sorcery. These are just paths that describe the different aspects. So we have to get out of this concept that people get caught up on the surface, and I'm using the Orishi pantheon for an example. They only know on the surface what these archetypes represent, but they really don't know in detail spiritually how you activate and work with their different paths. That's why, for an example, when you go before the Babalawo and you find out, 3 of them, matter of fact, and you find out which one, as they say, rules the head, they identify the specific path of the Orishi that rules your head. And this is how I know people are full of shit when I run into them. Yemaya is my guardian angel. And I'll ask them, well, how did you come to that determining fact? My padrino did it. How did he do it? He used the cowrie shells. That's not the right way to do it. You should use the opiate tray with the 3 babalawos and use the odus of Ifa and see what comes up through that way. Can you do it yourself? Yes, but most people would say, from a traditional standpoint, that's not correct. There's all that religious structure. I'm just speaking in general. I'm personally past all that shit. I couldn't care. I'm just saying the lack of understanding is what creates a lot of the illusionary bullshit that we're under. So we have to make sure we understand when we're approaching archetype, the different aspects of it, how to work with it, right? So that's another aspect. People think that they're just symbolic, and that's true to an extent. But I wouldn't say that's the tell-all or the story. Now, some people use them as focal points via imagery to activate a portion, of their psyche, to activate that Kali energy, that holy death energy, Papa Legba, and that's true to an extent. It's really all of those 3 things I aforementioned, the combination of those, but knowing how to apply them. Now, the difference is when you take that and put it all together, wearing the deific mask means your goal is not to worship these archetypes or deities. Your goal is to embody the energy and the consciousness that they represent. When you do that, you're putting on the mask of God, and you are looking through the eyes of God. Rather than asking the who, what, and why, you become the who, what, and why. So when you are doing an invoking and putting on the deific mask, you are leaving your subtle body. You are leaving person, place, and thing. And when you embody the energy of the deity, and some call it in certain spiritual systems possession, which I don't really like to call it that, because when you hear the English word possession, The ignorant people's mind runs to religious dogma, possession, evil spirits, devils, demons, exorcism, all that. See, that's all spooky Hollywood religious shit. When ritual is done correct, and whoever's doing the ritual, or you're doing it by yourself, and you are skilled in what you're doing, and you know how to work with the spirit or the energy of these deities and how to activate that portion of your psyche, it'll always go in accordance when it's done right. You will not be harmed. I've seen the craziest shit, whether it's myself or others. I've seen people do some bizarre shit when they were engulfed in the spirit. Um, from being lit on fire to just doing odd things that you wouldn't be doing normally when you're controlled or embodied. When you control and embody the energy of the deity or the spirit, of that mundane existence. Now, I want to make sure I'm explaining this correctly because I don't want nobody setting themselves on fire and thinking that they're going to convince somebody that they're engulfed. What I'm trying is, once you have embodied the energy of the deity or the archetype, it takes on a whole different meaning. That's the difference. So we're trying to embody and look through the eyes after we put on the deific mask. It's a symbolic term. So now, instead of worshiping Heru, I'm looking through the eyes of Heru in my ritualistic work. Instead of trying to say prayers to these orishis, I'm activating these orishi, and I'm trying to become, what they represent. That's the difference. I want to make that crystal clear. So we don't worship, we don't bow down, we don't gravel, and we don't say, we don't call these deities. I hear people in Egyptian Kemetic circles calling Ra, calling Amun Ra the Most High and shit like that. That's religion. I'm sorry. You can't say you're a god or a goddess, and you're not under these systems of religion, but you're using terms like the Most High. That's a religious term. That's religious dogma. That's religious indoctrination. Now, in my opinion, to really understand this path and master it, you have to move beyond that. When you're working greater black magic and you're tapping into the unlimited depths of your subconscious mind, you're going to the night side, right? You're opening Gothic gates. All that shit's out the window. You're gonna find that if you really are tapped in, you will find you must leave. You must check that all at the door, or it's gonna be your downfall. And I've seen people carry over a lot of those bad habits, or I should say, incorrect way of thinking with them on this path. Now, it's normal in the beginning, and it's normal for it to pop up every now and then. You got to remember, we've come up through a system of indoctrination that started from the moment we came out of our mother's womb, regardless of what level you were influenced on it. We grew up in a society that has dictated it through culture, education, religion, movies, media, you name it. So it's there. It's not going to go away overnight, but there should be some serious level of growth when you've been on the path for a while. So I'm not talking about people that are fairly new. That's normal. It's always going to be a struggle in the first stages of this path. So, it's definitely, something that you should approach and address a certain way. Let me see. I'm gonna look to see if you guys got any questions, because like I say, I'm just kind of rolling with this tonight. So if you guys got any questions, I'll look, see. But if not, I will continue talking. Yeah, Don, these cheddar pretzels, yeah, these are the shit right here. I don't know if you guys seen these. Don was asking about these earlier. I was munching on these. Man, they're fucking these motherfuckers. See, I forgot about them, but now I'm reading Don's comment. Now I got to go eat a few. Shits are good now, but they're addicting. But I feel you, Don. Dion, peace. Dion Thompson, peace. Sister Kiana, Brother Angel. All right, I sent that email. I don't know if you were on. I was just mentioning it earlier. Hope everybody sees that at some point tonight. Responds back, and we'll do our thing tomorrow night. All right. Lowell, I'm your biggest fan. Hope you are safe. Thank you, Lowell. Appreciate it. And yes, everybody's safe here. Thank you for asking. Do appreciate that. Alicia, what's going on? You should have got the emails. Make sure you got it. Everybody should have got it. Just for you guys that are in that NYC 11 crew, I also put a note on there. If you're going to use a phone or a tablet to come in tomorrow night, you must download the app. I want to make that clear. If you have a laptop or a desktop, you should just be able to click the link and it should open for you with no issue. I just want to make that clear. I put that in the email. So if you are going to connect tomorrow night via a tablet or a phone, you have to download the app. I just want to make sure we're clear on that for the NYC 11 crew. All right. Greetings. I hope I ain't butchering your name. I know you're here a lot. Make sure I'm not. Katha Bayu Mansaya. I hope I ain't butchering your name. If I did, correct me. Yes, Kiona, I bow to nothing or no one. Say that to yourself all the time on this path. That's a good mantra to get locked in your head. Remember, mantras or any statements like that you repetitively repeat to yourself, remember, the subconscious mind is trained by repetition. And believe it or not, there's power in thoughts and words. You know, they'll tell you in some metaphysical circles, you are your thoughts. You become your thoughts. This is why people fail in a lot of the stuff that they do, because they'll do work and then they start second guessing it. Did I do something wrong? Oh, this is not going to work. It's not. Once you start giving energy to something, you start to give it life and it starts to manifest. So we got to start learning ways via repetition, and mantras are good for that, to program the subconscious mind. I talk about one aspect of black magic, one of the many, is to reprogram the subconscious mind, right? That's one of the goals, not the old tell-all goal, but that's one of the, you should be using that methodology consistently in your work. That changes your way of thinking. It changes the way your mind, how it focuses. It changes the way your brain pattern functions. And remember, it kind of stamps that into the grooves of the way the brain thinks. That's very critical on this path, because this is the way they programmed us from the moment we came out of our mother's womb. They just kept repetitively stuffing shit down our nose. Think about a religion. That ritualist in a religious way, not in an occult ritualist. They just do the same thing over and over, week in and week out. It's a Wednesday or in a Sunday church service. It's going through some liturgical calendar that repeats the same biblical cycle over and over. So what they're doing, and that's the fuckery and the magic of their spell of wizardry, they're pumping you subconsciously and repetitively with the same shit. And that's why one of the most complicated person to have an intelligent conversation with is a religious person, because they're so indoctrinated and they suffer from cognitive dissonance. You can't penetrate that. And in a sense, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing because if not utilized right, it shuts you down to the facts and the truth and the reality of things. The good thing is it strong and firm in your path. Now they're getting strong and firm in their religious belief, which is faith in things not proven or seen. I said there is faith on the left hand, but it's personal faith and confidence in yourself, not religious, fictional faith. So we must utilize that power to really understand deity, deific mass, and how that correlates to ourselves. But yes, bow to nothing or no one. That should be one of your mottos you live by. Okay, because once you surrender your divinity and you put it in the hands of another, they now have control over your livelihood. And that's why you shouldn't be a part of any Mickey Mouse clubs, groups, or organizations to the point where you put your livelihood in their hands. It doesn't mean you can't belong to some group, but when that's the tell-all, be-all that guides your life, people join these organizations, the Black Hebrew Israelites and all these other groups, and they think they got a one-way ticket to salvation and to heaven. Now you fuck yourself up. One, got blinders on, you cut off all your creative way of thinking, and you think that this one stagnated path is going to buy you a one-way ticket into whatever the fuck you think. That cuts you off. You become mentally dead. That's something you should never do. If you want to be a part of esoteric or spiritual organizations, fine. Use it as a learning tool. Use it as something to gain experience, but don't be exclusive to it to the point where you become fanatical. Don't be a part of any group or organization that says you should only do this and this only. You should only dress like this only. You should eat this. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Once you're involved in that circle of fuckery, you're disconnected and you're trapped, and you will never grow to your full potential. Most people that are on this path, and I'm sure a majority of you in here tonight, you went through different schools and spiritual systems, and that's why you left. Because it only answered some of your questions. You outgrew it. You started to see the inconsistencies in the shit, the contradictions. You knew there was more to it. That's why I would assume majority of us are here, because we want to learn more. We know there's more answers to this thing called life, and what death is, and where we're going. How did we get here? What's going to happen to us when we die? These are questions spiritual seekers started to think at a young. I started thinking about this shit at a very young age. I wanted to know the answers to these questions, and nobody really answered them. They gave me some spooked out explanation for it, So these are things that we must ponder, all right? These are things we must really think about. But anyway, all right, Blair says, Blair Jones, do results from different deities work in the same subjective way? Absolutely not. It depends on how you're working with them, particular reason you're working with them. And remember, on the greater black magic working and you're tapping in to these deities via your subjective realm, it depends on what you've done there subjectively, what reason you're working with them, and what method or approach you went about doing it is going to determine how that's going to correlate in manifesting your objective. So no, it's definitely not the same at all. You could be working with the same deity in different periods, and it's not going to be the same. Because how you tap in, how you fuel it with your intent, and the exact purpose and reasoning behind it is going to determine how that's going to manifest. So in my opinion, and most people that really do work would tell you the same thing, no, it's not going to be in the same subjective way at all. Unless you might see some similarities if you're doing the same particular ritual over and over, but there's a reason for it. Now, there are some workings that require you do something, say, for 7, 8, 9 days or a couple of weeks. But I found even in that, the intensity of that builds up. It's not really exactly the same. Is there a similarity between the energy? Yes. If you're doing a working like that, I'm saying something that requires an X amount of days or weeks or something like that. But I find overall, no, it's not completely the same. Okay. Yvette's question, Yvette Goldberg. What is the best way to get rid of the religious mentality? That's a vast question. That's tough. One, it depends on the person asking. I know you're asking the question. I'm not sure if it's for yourself or you're just asking in general. One, you'd have to determine first and foremost, the person who's asking it, how long have you been on this path, right? Then you would, if you're still struggling with that, if it's you or somebody else, then you have to ask yourself, all right, if you've been on the path for a couple of years and you're struggling with it bad, then you need to, I'll explain this, so you should address it. Now, if you're just having issues with it every here and now, once in a while, that's different. That's something you're going to probably deal with consistently. And sometimes subconsciously, you don't catch yourself. But if you're consciously catching yourself all the time, then yes, it is a bit of a problem. So some suggestions on dealing with that would be your approach. So what I would do, I would go back and analyze the type of work I do. How am I doing my ritualistic work for a deity? What is your mindset when you're doing an invocation? Are you focused on like you're praying to something external? Usually the issue or the struggle is in the approach. I can tell you that right now. Now, if you want to address it as a whole from a more higher spiritual level, a great way would be to work with a road clearing archetype like La Santísima Muerte, the Holy Death, Papa Legba. Something I did years ago with Papa Legba, activate his energy as a road opener and a gatekeeper to activate higher states of consciousness. I would also invoke Tahuti for higher levels of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And as you're doing that, focus on removing that religious mindset or mentality, giving you clarity in thoughts, giving you clarity and understanding. That would be addressing it in its totality from a spiritualistic work. Now you can take something so simple as, an image of a particular deity, using a simple form of invocation and candle magic and anointing that candle for that specific purpose and then charge it up with that intent. You can start very basic there. Another aspect would be an aspect of chaos magic where you really do a ritual geared around embodying the deity. What does that mean? You can go as far to the point as dressing. I want to say this where people don't go fucking stupid with it, though. Again, I want to be careful what I say because I don't want nobody to go to spooky Cadetville, have a one-way ticket, and not have a ticket back. You can go to the point where if you pick a deity that deals with that, you can dress like that deity. Create the implements that they have. If they carry a certain staff or implement or a tool, if they have a certain way or symbols on their face, you can go to the whole nine. Go for yourself in that deity and evoke them, not invoke them. Evoking them is when you embody them. And you can kind of force that energy of that spirit of deity on you to feel what it's like, in essence, to look through the eyes of God or the deific mask and not worship. I wouldn't suggest you do that right out the gate until you started doing some of the other things that I mentioned. That would probably be more in line and lead you to that point. But if you're serious about that, and if it's an area in your work you're struggling with, I would suggest those methods kind of in that order that I described. That's usually the telltale reason why the mentality is still there. It's usually in the approach. So you got to change the way the mind thinks, the way the mind absorbs things, and that type of work changes that pattern. So that's what I would recommend. All right, we got a question from, again, I'm kind of just flowing with it tonight. So if people got questions, go ahead, type in. And I'll kind of answer them. All right, Alicia asks, I did an obsidian mirror work and a mask. It wasn't a deity, just like a native black and white mask. That's fine. That's more in line with personal daemon work. That's a good thing. I like to use the obsidian mirror as a porthole or a gateway to the Klapothic realm or the dark side. I like to use it with Lilith. I like to use it with going through the gates of Lucifer. You can use it on that level. And I also use it actually doing a specific ritual, my personal demon, the image and the life I gave form to it, which is really just the higher self, but I'll use it for that. That, what you're describing, not saying that that's exactly how you utilized it. Okay, because what you're basically doing is when you're not gearing it to a specific deity, sometimes putting on that mask, you're looking through the eyes of a powerful entity or energy, which really in essence is your highest self. So that's fine. Now, I don't know what the black and white symbolize it could to you. First thing that comes to thought with me is harmony, right? Those lighter and darker energies, which that is the goal of the black adept, how they can become harmonious with what we call light and dark energies. Remember, Lucifer and opening the gates of Lucifer is the only archetype of deity that embodies light and darkness simultaneously. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. We have to become like Lucifer in the sense where we have to embody. We have to embody that light and darkness simultaneously. That's the goal. So not sure if the black and the white mask symbolize that to you. But yeah, whatever you shape that work for, what I'm seeing there, that kind of sounds more to me like personal demonic work, which is a good thing. Now that's just how I'm seeing it. Maybe you type something in later, Alicia. Angel says, are those some of those paths also avatars? Yes, and titles of the same archetype / energies, most definitely. Manifesting in various characters, the same energy entities and archetypes, absolutely. You'll see there's a lot of synchronizations and different. That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you pointed that out. And that's something we have to recognize on this path because we work with all, like most people that work with the Orishi, they just exclusively Orishi. Most people that work with the Natiru, they just work with Egyptian, Natiru, and Kemetic. Most people that work with a specific spiritual system, whether it's Buddhism or the Tibetan book of they work with those archetypes. The difference with what we do is we incorporate all we see fit. If we have an interest in it, we work with it. So yes, you can see some synchronizations. Like you can use the Orishi pantheon and then the Tiru. There's a lot of similarizations. Some have synchronized Shango with Heru because of some of the stories. There's synchronizations, between Obatala and Amun-Ra. I mean, we can go on with the list. And then there's similar aspects of their connection in nature. A lot of the hierarchy deities, just like with the Orishi and the Tiru, they correlate with certain elements in nature. So yes, there is most definitely. I mean, look, you can correlate Lucifer, Elegua, any culture that has a form of the adversary synchronizes almost all those deities together in some shape, form, or fashion. So yes, it's important to recognize, and that's a very good point. I wasn't even on my mind until you just brought it up, Angel. And that's something that definitely connects to this conversation tonight. That is your goal in your study and your research. So that's what I mean when I say when you're doing work and you're setting up altars, you can put those similar energies together, regardless if they're from a different pantheon or culture. So any road opener deity you can kind of put together if you're doing work. I wouldn't recommend you put the Holy Death because that is a road opener. We've been over that a million times before. But yes, you could take Legba, Papa Legba, any of the gateway deities, Ampu or Anubis. Some people set up necromancy, and they will incorporate a lot of these road opener deities that connect this realm, the physical realm, to the abode of the dead or the eternal living, I actually like to call it. That can be done. And that's done based on having an understanding how some of these archetypes are synchronized with each other. So most definitely, that is an excellent point. That is something I would recommend in studies. Again, since we study various aspects of all these systems, that is your goal. That is your job. And each person should be doing work to understand it. So good point. Okay, so here's more clarity on to what Alicia was saying earlier. The yin and the yang. And I saw one of my past life amazing experience. It really answers a lot of questions. So that's definitely in line with personal daemon or higher self work. So, I would also look into the form of when you're putting on that mask, it's activating. There's a connection there. You're probably conscious of it. But for the other listeners, when you're putting it on, it's activating a certain portion of your psyche that's giving you connection and clarity to those thoughts. So that's a good thing. Okay, I'm glad I didn't butcher your name. I'm just going to say Mansaya for short. Appreciate it. Hello to Laz Valdez. And here's a comment by Mansaya. Religion is the worst because for a while I had to fight what was pumped into me. Yes, and I'm sure you're one of many that was in that boat and is still in that boat. And again, as I said earlier in the beginning of the class, that's not going to go away overnight. And in essence, it doesn't go away in its entirety, but you should see, as you've been on the path for X amount of time, you should see some extreme growth and elimination of it. When it randomly pops up here and there, that's just normal because the subconscious mind it's like a computer. It stores stuff on that hard drive, and once in a while, you just happen to access a file that you just don't utilize no more. That's okay. But when it's coming up constantly, more so if you've been on the path for a while, then that's an area you got to address. And I'm just speaking as a whole. So know that if you're new or fairly new, or you're just getting on the path, know that's not going to disappear right out the gate. It takes a little work and time, and how it starts to dissipate is consistency through the type of work. Is it going to go away by just doing nothing and reading a bunch of books? Absolutely not. It'll still stay there. All you're doing is suppressing it. You're not dealing with it. And with suppression or with resistance comes persistence. That's just a fact. Burying it or not dealing with it doesn't make it go away. Okay. All right. So we got Smooth the God. Knowing that we are unlimited archetypes when you mention, let's say, the hero archetype. That would include all deities that fall under the hero archetype mythology. Yes, I mean, it's how you utilize it. If that's the way you utilize it in your approach, hero aspect, or, whatever you want to give life to, there's people that use what we know as fictitious characters as deities or archetypes. So we can even shift that to, let's say, Marvel superheroes. But I want to be careful when I say this because some people go extremely spooky with it. So as long as you're activating, like let's take an example I've used before in the past, Apocalypto, right? The character in the X-Men movies, because what Apocalypto represents, he was a nonconformist. He was telling the truth. He was dropping the science, right? He was giving a whole breakdown of how people think destruction and reconstruction is bad because they were looking at it from a religious perspective. So say we got an image of Apocalypto and we focused on those aspects but applied it to self. How can I utilize that to deconstruct and reconstruct parts of myself? So as long as there's an approach to it and there's that harmonious bridge between the subjective and the objective, shit, you can use any of that stuff. But what I've found over the years is some people get too extreme with it. It goes super spooky. So how to avoid that, or how it's not super spooky? Real simple. There should be a consistent reflection of it in your objective realm. As long as you are seeing that, not just look, you can have all the experiences you want, traveling to astral realm, great. But if you're not seeing that instant manifestation of those results in your everyday mundane existence, then you're a bit spooky. That's just a reality. You could say what anybody, and I'm speaking in general, anybody can say what they want and disagree with that, but results are the telltale. So you can't tell me you have the power to do all this crazy, spooky shit on the astral realm, but you can't even master your everyday mundane existence. You can't even consistently be successful in your everyday life, making money, your career, your profession, taking care of your family. If I can't see it there first, there's a disconnect. It's disharmony there. It doesn't mean you ain't having those great spiritual experiences. Cool, power to you. But what I would focus on or be concerned about, why is it not transitioning into the objective consistently? Other than that, it's just a lot of personal experiences. And it really don't hold no weight because it's irrelevant. So yes, you can use the hero archetype, whether it's an established culture, tradition, or spiritual system, or it can be mythology, complete mythology. Again, there are people, like for an example, I'll use the Sith trilogy, a fictitious trilogy that's connected to a lot of reality-based things. So the Sith is a powerful Sith philosophy, and Sith sorcery is a powerful tool that can be used in Sith alchemy, can be utilized and transitioned into your personal work. How can I apply that to self? You can do that with anything. There's a lot of pantheons, mythologies, trilogies in the entertainment world that can be utilized for that, in addition to established cultures like ancient Egypt, the Yoruba culture. By all means, you can use shit. You can use Ronald McDonald if you want. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's how you mold and shape it. You understand? It doesn't matter. But it got to be that harmonious bridge between the objective and the subjective. All right? So, okay, what do we got before? Give me a second. Skipped on me. Okay, so next question. Pearl the Pug. Do you think gay people, I think you meant to say go to hell. I think if you believe in Jesus and a good person that you will get to heaven. What's your view? That's religion. You're probably in the wrong, this is probably the wrong channel for you. No, I don't believe all gay people go to hell, because then who would be responsible for that? Who's responsible for creating gay people? God or the Bible? Because if you believe in God, you believe God controls everything. So anybody that believes in that nonsense would have to accept the fact. Don't disconnect God from that. Because God controls, according to religious people, God controls everything in the universe. Don't say, and don't sit there and say, well, that the devil makes somebody gay, because who created the devil according to religious theology? God. So in essence, your God is responsible for everything. All you got to do is read the 45th chapter of Isaiah, and read the first several verses. And he says he creates good and evil, light and darkness. I, the Lord God, do all these things. So the problem is with religious people, when something that they don't agree with and what they determine as being bad, they attribute it to this fictitious character called the devil. And anything positive that happens, they give God the credit. Well, God was just responsible for ripping that hurricane through the Bahamas, okay? He has power over that. So now we need to ask ourselves a question. Why would God want to do something destructive like that and destroy people's lives? And don't get into no spooky shit something that the people did, this and that. The point of the matter is it's still controlled by God. And don't know God does these things to test his creation. God doesn't have to test anything he created. That's stupid. It's stupidity. So long story short, I ain't going to stay on it too long, and I'm not going to really feed into that nonsense. It's probably not the channel for you. Disagree with that. That's an idiotic statement. It's the best way I could describe it. And I don't even want to get into the Jesus thing because, first of all, if you really were studying, you know there's no such name as Jesus. There's no letter J in the Hebrew alphabet. That's a Greek name. So you would have to first tell me the real name of your Savior in the Aramaic and the Hebrew. See, the problem is with most religious people, they don't even know their own religion and their own dogma because they're listening to Pastor Porkchop and Reverend Chitlin, who don't really know anything anyway. So I don't even want to waste my time on that. So no, totally disagree with that statement. All right. Montilla, you got to be determined to let go and realize you were brainwashed by religion and traditions and start questioning every religious belief. That's a start. Yes, questioning is a start, and most people don't do that. But you must question everything to have an understanding of it. Anybody that tells you you're wrong for doing that, then they got an agenda. They got something to hide. Okay. Because you'll see stupid shit like, there'll be people on the news who'll say stuff like, praise God. That's why I won't say that. Praise God, the Lord. We came out of this hurricane good. But there's people that didn't come out of the hurricane good in the Bahamas. So do they give credit to that same God? Because the same God, the people who were safe and weren't harmed, was the same God that caused that destruction. If you're coming from a religious mentality. That's why you won't ever hear me say no shit like that. All right, so what else we got? Juicy from Chigga City. I know a popular witch on Facebook/YouTube where she tells her supporters they don't need anyone else and just buy her classes, courses. Well, how can you need anyone else and tell you to buy classes or courses? That's ridiculous. I suggest I do classes and courses, but I wouldn't stop anybody from taking. People that take my classes and courses, they take courses and classes. Anybody that tells you some stuff like that, they got an agenda. They want you to feed their pockets. I suggest everybody absorb and learn as much as they can. I would never tell anybody only take my classes or you don't need anybody else because that's a bunch of nonsense. That person obviously could not know everything. And you'd be doing yourself a disservice. So I always encourage people to study, explore, experiment. It's the only way you're going to learn. And you might find you take some people's courses and they're not for you, but at least you have the experience under your belt right now. And when I promote my classes and courses, I guarantee you is to get a better learning and understanding. Anybody that's promoting that you could take a class or a course that's going to fix all your problems, they're full of shit. I guarantee you when you take my classes, you'll learn applications, techniques, how to work these different systems and paths, but I center it around you'll learn how to do it for yourself. I'm going to give you the outline of the blueprint, but you'll walk away motivated and inspired, to do it for yourself. That's the difference. So I would stay away from anybody that either tells you, just take my shit and don't take nobody else's. That's suspect. That's usually somebody that got an agenda and they want you to feed their pockets. So, well, yeah, then you confirm it with your next comment, Juicy. She has a good information, and she probably does, but she sounds kind of cultist. That's what you got to be careful of. If it was me and she's got information that you're interested in, take what you can get from it. And don't be, again, as I said earlier, don't be exclusive to that and become a follower. And then this is how these groups and these cults start, because people start to become exclusive, things of that nature. But hey, if you feel like there's something there and she's got good stuff, I mean, you're right, she probably does. I don't know her, so I can't be hypocritical and speak bad against her. I would just be cautious of the only do my shit game. There's a lot of people out there do that. That's all hype. All right. Don Plummer, what is a reliable place to find mansions for Egyptian material? Oh, there's a lot of good places. The Necro-Minion book by Michael W. Ford, which is the works of Charles Pace, who considered himself a priest of Set. That's a great book with many mantras in it. The Draconian Egyptian Ritual book by Bill Davender, I think his last name is. That's a great book. You can find a lot of mantras in there, chants, things of that nature. Those are the top two that come to mind. Now, you will find some scattered in Second Pep too, by Michael W. Ford. What's the other dude's name? I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of his name. Apophis, I think. Kelly is the last name. I can't think of his first name. But there's plenty of books out there working with it. Any of those authors, they have actually more than one. Just Google any of them. But I would definitely seek out Necro-Minion by Michael W. Ford, which is just a reproduction of Charles Pace's works. He's got a lot of good mantras in there, meditations, chants, things that you can actually graft and create your own mantras. And he has them in the original language. He's taken some of these chants right out of the text, and that's what I like about it. Whether it's the pyramid text coming forth by day, any of those texts that are in the coming forth by day, he has them all broken down in there. So that would be my suggestion. All right. Mythos. Do sigils serve the same purpose as a deific mask? Not exactly. Is it similar? Yes, because a sigil does give off a certain energy and consciousness, and it does open up or activate your psyche, because we know when we focus on a sigil, we can use it as, like, for an example, when working with the Klapathic or the night side, you can actually anoint the sigil with bodily fluids. It could be blood, sexual fluids, and it can be used as a gateway or a doorway opener. It can be used as just a symbol to focus on, and it emits a certain level of consciousness or energy. So is there similarities? Yes, in the sense that you're using it as a way to embody the energy and the consciousness of what the sigil represents, because it's connected to a deity. So I get that. Yes, there is a sense. Is it exactly the same? No, because the reason why I say it's not exactly the same, because usually the sigil, for an example, say we're using the sigil of Papa Legba, and you look at the sigil of Papa Legba, it deals with the 4 cardinal points. You have the cane of Legba, but it's dealing with opening the 4 cardinal points. The reason why I say not completely, because usually it focuses on the key aspect of the sigil of what the deity represents. Doesn't usually embody or detail everything that the deity represents. And most of the time it's used kind of as a gateway or an opener to connect with that deity. So are there similarities? Most definitely, yes. Are they exactly the same? Absolutely not. But I could definitely see the connection, definitely. All right. David Banks, Paranormal Chaos. I ordered the book from last week, just waiting for you. I don't have that book. I'm not sure unless you typed in something else. So I can't really speak on that. I don't have it. Las Valdez, just depends on your pronunciation. It's actually Orishi, not Orisha. That's more the English, or Orisha, some will say in English. It just depends on the house that you come through. Sometimes you'll see a slight variation in the pronunciation. That's all. That's just the house I came into. That's how it was always pronounced. Correct. Orishi is plural. That's a good point. Orisha is singular. That's another good point by Akpan. So yes, when I'm referring to the Orishi as a whole, I'm referring to all of them, the deities. Orisha with the A, or Orisha, would just be, as Akpan saying, one. You're referring to one particular Orisha. But that's it. It's just pronunciation variation. That's a good point. Kathabayu, Mansaya. I have Papa Legba and Ganesha as they both move hindrances and blockages. Gansha. Yeah. I mean, again, you can take any of those energies that are synchronized, regardless if they're from different systems or cultures, as long as the energy is similar and their focal point does the same thing, that's fine. So that's a good point. Did I miss something from Kiona? What does it mean? Why? You must have typed something up top I missed. I don't understand the question. What did I miss? Something must have been missing, Kiona. You typed in, what does it mean? Why? I'm not sure what you're referring to. All right, so maybe you'll type something in later down. There's that home kid things. Never heard of that one before. Usually we call them orishas for plural in English. Yeah, even if you had the S on it. But really, again, it's just the pronunciation of it. You'll find it pronounced a little different. All right. Mythos. Any deity can be a gateway opener once you activate the energy within your own subconscious mind. That's true. Okay, what does it mean, Kiona asks, Kiona Living Magic, what does it mean to have many blockages and can't get past a certain level financially? Usually when that happens is there's other things you're not addressing that are more important. Again, I'm not saying this is the case with you. I'm speaking in general now, but it's connected to your question. Some people out there focus to be so financially successful, but you ask yourself, sometimes they're not focusing on the things that are of utmost importance first. So you might work with an archetype or deity that deals with finances and prosperity, and you may not be getting consistent results. You may not be getting no results at all, or you might find yourself getting results once in a while. Well, I've said a million times, once you have knowledge of self via your shadow work and you are dressing and mastering your true self, you'll find that starts to fall in line. Like, let me give you an example. If your life is in disarray, you got personal problems, family problems, etc. You got other issues going on within yourself, personal traumas that you've not dealt with, whether it's with family members, whether you're struggling with things in your life. In all of those areas, you might be negating that and you're trying to do financial work, money work. It's not going to work. Because what's happening is that's the actual blockage. That's creating the blockage why you can't get to that level. That's why I always say, once you have true knowledge of self, right? And I always use the parable of Solomon, all right? It's a parable. He was asked, what is it that he wanted? He could have anything he wanted. He could have said, I want all the riches on the planet. That's not what he asked for. He asked for the knowledge and the wisdom first, and everything was added unto him. And we got to use that parable on this path. If we seek true knowledge of self and have a thorough understanding of self first and master self, you will find the materialistic things tend to fall into place, not in a spooky way, not that you just got to sit back and don't do anything, but you'll find the doors and the avenues and the opportunities are there. They open up. You got to kick the motherfucker down and go in and do the work, but they open up for you. So most people struggle in those areas because there's other blockages in their life that they're not dealing with, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it. I can guarantee you that's probably why. There's probably other areas that you need to focus on first before you can be successful as a whole consistently in that area. All right? Good point by Mythos. Deity, to an extent, that's correct. Deity is frequency and energy, not literal personages. Remember, the personages is what you create. If you have a statue or a symbol that represents that deity, that's just utilized as a focal point to activate that frequency and that energy in here. So when you set up an altar, you say, what's the purpose of having statues and deities on your altar? Because when you look at them, they're supposed to activate the frequency. That's the whole point. So when you look at your set statue, it should activate the set energy and the psyche. That's why we use the actual images. I know that's why I use them. I don't put them on there because we're worshiping them and we're praying to them. No, it's a symbol. And when I look at the personas, if it's in a statuette form or it's in an image, physical aspect, I'm looking at it. And as soon as I tap into it, because I've charged it with my own energy, it's activating that energy and frequency. That's why we work with altars. Okay. God, Sean. There could be many reasons. I couldn't tell you exactly offhand. as far as being connected to darkness. That's your spirit speaking to you. Couldn't tell you exactly. That's probably a thorough conversation that we have to get more in depth with on the side. I would just explore it. I would start studying what you're attracted to. That's going to give you the entry level understanding why. So I would just, if whatever you feel the attraction to on this path, start studying it, research it. Then when you feel motivated, start doing some spiritual work in that area. Let it gradually take its course. That's the best way to start. And then you'll see it'll start to shape and put itself into perspective. But exactly why, that's some work you need to seek out. Only you know that. I mean, we could all give you suggestions why. I'm sure there's some telltale hints on the surface, but we'd just be speculating. Amazing Nini. Peace, everybody. Peace, brother B. Hate, I did not get a note. I'm not sure why you, Amazing Nini, what I would do is, I don't know if you're subscribed to the channel, and this is for everybody. If you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, click the bell. The bell is the notification. After you subscribe, click the bell, and anytime I go live or any new video post, you will get a notification. I'm not sure why that's happening on Facebook. I know you mentioned something about that last time. It could be something with your notification thing. I've heard that before. You're not the first one. What I would suggest, so you stay abreast of notifications, you're better off subscribing to the channel. And this is for everybody. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and then hit not only subscribe to the channel, if you want to get notifications anytime that I go live or anytime I post and upload a video, subscribe and then click the bell, the notification bell. Anytime something new is getting ready to come up, you'll get a notification. That would be my suggestion to maybe avoiding the Facebook. I couldn't tell you why you're not getting the Facebook, but I've heard that from other people. Yes, and this is a good comment by Mythos. Once you literalize, and that's why I was saying I'm not really in agreement when I was talking about the 3 different approaches. That was the first approach. When you literalize the deity, you dilute the energy potential within yourself. I 100% agree with that. Now, again, having said that, because I know some people have followed up and said, well, you know, like I had one person that emailed me, like they literally look at Lucifer as an external deity and they get results. And I said, well, what are you emailing me for? Are you emailing me? You're getting results, but the fact that you're emailing me and saying contrary to that shows there's still some self-doubt within yourself. You wouldn't bother emailing me and saying that. Because my thing is, I always say people, my simple response to when I get emails like that, if you're getting results, why are you questioning it? Why are you going back and second guessing it? Or why are you trying to challenge it? So are there rare cases where people literalize it? Yes. Personally, that's not a path I would recommend or choose, because that usually 9 out of 10 times isn't going to work. But if you are one of those people and it works, hey, there's your answer. There's really no need to go beyond that. It's a waste of time. All right. Yes. Juicy also says it's just energies within that you must activate. Most definitely. This is good. Yes. Important comment from Juicy. Right. If you astral travel but still catching the bus and you need a car, that's what I'm talking about. And again, let me make this clear. I'm not talking about the person that's going through real life struggles, because there are people that go through real life struggles. There are people that have those situations. I'm not talking about that person. As long as that person's not talking all that, I astral travel and do all these phenomenal spiritual things. I'm talking about the person who says all these things, but then, yes, they sleeping on mom's couch. They catching the bus. They ain't got a pot to piss in. They piss broke. That's a telltale sign that there's a disconnect of harmony between your subjective and objective. That's just the reality. It's hard, and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure many people are going to agree with that. It's hard for me to really buy that or accept it, because if it's not a living reflection, if I don't see it as a living reflection in your everyday life on some level, I can't really take it serious. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because I live by that motto, that you must not just talk about what you study, you must be a living example of it. And that's one of the models we all should live by. If I'm talking this left-hand path stuff, if I'm talking the shit that I'm talking about in these videos, I better be a living example of it. I better see it in your life. I better see it in your family. I better see it in your household. And I better see it manifest in your mundane existence on some level consistently. I'm not saying you gotta be, nobody's fucking perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But if I don't see it manifesting consistently, don't give me this fairy tale shit. Then we got these group of people out here, oh, this world's just an illusion, and I control this illusion and it's a dream. Well, how do you know, motherfucker, you ain't in somebody else's dream? You don't really know that. And if it's a dream and it's an illusion and you control it and created it, then you mean to tell me you created an illusion where you're riding the bus and you're stocking shelves at a grocery store and you're living in your mom's basement, but this world is an illusion and it's a dream and you control it? That shit don't make no sense to me. I'm sorry. Because if that's the case, if you had that power, I'd be super prepared. I'd be a millionaire living in a mansion. I have a harem of females. You understand? I'd be driving the most expensive cars. If it was that easy and it's just an illusion and it's just a dream and you control it, but then I turn around and you're catching the bus and you're sleeping on your mom's couch and you're working for $10 an hour. Do you see the disconnect in that? If you can't see the disconnect in that, there's something wrong with you. Okay? That's the stuff I'm talking about. We have to be careful of that. How many brothers I've run into, they're so deep, but yet they don't even want to take care of their kids. I don't care if listen. You could have the most horrible falling out with your lady. As a man, it's your job to take care of your kids, regardless. And I'm saying that from experience, from my first. All right? Regardless of how horrible it was and the bullshit, I never abandoned my kids and I always took care of them. Okay? There's no excuse for that shit. How the fuck you gonna talk about you're a God and you can't even pay your child support? You can't even get your kid school supplies. You can't even buy your kid clothes. But you want to preach this levitation and healing shit and travel in the astral realm and you're so deep, but your monkey ass can't even fucking take care of your own kids. It doesn't make sense, people. You can't sell that to me in any shape, form. I ain't even trying to hear it. I don't care how much shit you regurgitate. I don't care how much shit you think you know. I don't care how much stuff you studied and mastered. It's all subjective because it ain't transitioning into your everyday life. And I squashed that illusion shit, and this is a dream, and I control it. Well, if that's the case, you created a dream and an illusion where you can't pay your child support, you can't take care of your motherfucking kids, and you ain't got no money. That's not some type of illusion. What kind of God creates control something like that? Or I should say lack of control. That's not what this path is about. Now, maybe that's some path you studied. That's not this path. Okay? That's not what this path teaches. That's not what this path is about. Path of self-mastery, the occult left-hand path, that's not what it's about. And that's why I said don't confuse everything occult ain't left-hand path and everything left-hand path ain't occult. Don't confuse that shit. You're going to get twisted. Right? Nikita says, I tried working with Lucifer, but he wouldn't respond to me. He wouldn't show up, so I came to the conclusion that I don't need a deity. Well, there's some verbiage that you use there I think could be a problem. It's just my opinion. I'm seeing literalness. You're saying he wouldn't respond to me. I've been talking about this later. Are you looking for some manifestation of an image of Lucifer and some type of visual him talking to you? Because remember, that's not just how spirit always manifests. Sometimes it's an awareness, it's a clarity of thought, it's a feeling, it's a presence. I think part of your problem is you're creating a blockage and you have this preconceived notion, whether it's conscious or subconsciously, that you already have something that you're prepared to see. When it's not happening, you could be blocking the other experiences. Not saying that's the case, but I'm basing that off of your verbiage and the way you made your statement. Now, maybe you've come to that conclusion that you don't need a deity. And some people, is it mandatory? No, because they're archetypes. Archetypes are various different characteristics of a deity. So you can work with any type of energy or as far as archetype concerned. Archetype isn't just limited to a particular, what we know as a deity. Archetype can be a whole doctrine. That's an archetype. If you Google the word archetype, look at the definition of it. And I did a video on that a while back. Sometimes we hear the word archetype and we think it's only synonymous with a deity. That's not the case. Archetype can be a whole pantheon. It could be a grimoire could be classified as an archetype. A doctrine or a dogma can be classified as an archetype. If you Google the word, you get a clear breakdown and explanation of it. So But maybe you have come to that conclusion. Maybe you don't. That could be the case. But I was just addressing your verbiage and how you made your statement. I'm sensing that part of your problem is you have this preconceived notion, and you might say on the surface, consciously, no, I don't. But then it could be subconsciously. You're going into it with a preconceived notion of what you expect. And the best way to approach working with spirit, you need to clear your mind, not just have an open mind, have a free mind. Don't go into it with preconceived notions or ready thoughts where you already have imaged out in your mind what you want to see. Because when you don't see it, it poses a problem. Because again, spirit doesn't always manifest of some apparition and then hearing some voice. That's not always how the spirit works. Spirit, again, sometimes it's a presence. It's a clarity of thought. It's an inner voice. Sometimes it's just piecing things together in your mind. Sometimes it could be something around you that takes place, hearing something. Sometimes it could be after the ritual. See, this is where a lot of people fail to look for further communication with the spirit. It's not always just at the moment in the ritual. It could be from that moment moving on throughout the week. Something could take place that connects or confirms with the work you did. That's communication with the spirit too. So I'm saying, and I'm speaking in general, not just to your question, Nikita, for anybody listening out there, don't think spirit communication is always an apparition in voice. Sometimes we have that in our minds, and when it doesn't happen, we don't think we're getting, the results. All right. So what else we got? Mythos. Yes, you are any energy or deity. You align your own engines, conscious mind. True. Excuse me one second. All right, sorry about that. All right, so where we leave off here. All right, angel. Angel says, did ancient societies / cultures also use titles and descriptions to identify certain deities? Most definitely. Remember, usually in the name of the deity, there's an action, and it usually, for most part, is a telltale description of what that deity represents, for the most part. But most definitely. And you will see them titles can change in different spiritual systems and cultures based on that culture's particular language, right? We can use basic religion for an example. When you take, I was talking about, I can't remember what I was just talking about this not so long ago. Thutmose the First of ancient Egypt, the pharaoh name of Thutmose, and then the phonetic name of who we know as Moshe and Musa in Arabic, Moshe in Hebrew, and then Moses in the Greek. They all phonetically, based on as that title gets passed down, they phonetically mean he who was drawn from water, right? He who was drawn. Now, Thutmose the First really is where the character, the Hebrew character Moses, was grafted from. When you read the story, that's a whole other thing. I want to get into that right now. But I'm using that as an example to validate what you're saying, Angel. Most definitely. That definitely happened. Oh, shit. Hold on. Where'd I leave off? Give me 1 second. Skipped. I'll get the spot back. All right, found it. All right, so the angel has another question right there. By those attributes and over those deities were identified with those attributes and characteristics, symbols, etc. Yes. So you basically would just say when I say most definitely. And that understanding comes in your study, in your research. And when you have an understanding of that, you'll be able to use. That's why when we say this is a very versatile and vast path where you can utilize any system you want. We're not limited on this path to use anything, but the only way you're going to get that knowledge and understanding is by what you're talking about. And that comes through study, real study, and being able to apply that study. Remember, information not being able to apply it is useless information. It's just information you regurgitate. But yes, those are excellent points. Mythos, worshiping anything outside of self is just religion. Yes, most definitely. Juicy from Giga City, or you can make a servitor and assign a magic. Yes, servitors are now very important when you create those servitors and how you create them, because if you're creating servitor spirits, and let's say they're servitor spirits to do devouring or destructive magic, be cautious how you create them, because sometimes if they constantly need to be fed certain energy, for lack of a better word, it can be a little overwhelming. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But servitors in general, yes, because they're self-created and you command them. You should command all energy that you work with. But yes, good point. Lads Valdez, the synchronism between the 7 principles of Tuthi and Tesla's energies, frequencies, and vibrations should explain any question how religion is BS. I agree. And that's true. There is a synchronization between them. I've always said this with the 7 Hermetic principles. What's big in the Kemetic conscious Egyptian community, for lack of a better word, it's always Ma'at, the principles of Ma'at. And they're great. But really, you can't fully understand and master the principles of Ma'at till you understand the 7 principles of Tahuti. Because one deals with the objective and the other deals with the subject. Right? The subjective deals with the 7 principles of Tahuti. Ma'at is really the objective principles. So again, it's wrong to start there, because now we're back to that external inward when it should be inward outward. So yes, it's very important. All right, what else we got? Mythology and psychology go hand in hand for mythos. Most definitely, I agree. Yeah, Juicy. I was crying and sad when I saw those people praying to Jesus during the storm. I mean, part of it's not their fault because they don't know no better, and it's sad. Nature ain't got nothing to do with religion, God, or Jesus. That's the sad thing. Nature's been doing its thing long before that. Now, and the sad part about it is, like I said earlier, it just goes to show the level of ignorance, where you'll see some people on the news that'll make stupid ass statements and say, "Praise the Lord, I survived, I came out of it unscathed, I made it," but not realizing the same Lord you're giving praise to was the same one that annihilated all those other people, right? It's a lack of understanding. So they're only doing what they were programmed to do. They don't know no better. I agree with you. But unfortunately, it's a generational thing that some of us came through it and woke up and became smarter, and they just haven't. And it's sad. It's just, we're living in a day of time where nature does its thing in cycles. We're living in a very, very, very rare day and time, whereas nature's approaching the end of their epochs, 2 epochs going as what we call from a 24,000 year equinox into an epoch. And that 50,000 year cycle, which we just finished a 50,000 year cycle, and you go back on, and scientists will go back to meteorite showers, etc. This is the earth doing its thing. Now, if you want to get spooky and attribute that to some biblical God, knock yourself out. Okay? But when you want to attribute and separate what good and bad happens, and attribute the good to this spooky God, and then separate the character who their Bible says he created the devil, and anything bad and evil happens, it's the devil, now you're confused. So I don't have no problem if you want to attribute nature, science, and creation to your God. Power be it. Knock yourself out. That's your personal belief. That's what you need. That's what makes you feel good. I ain't got no problem with that. The problem I got is, though, where you separate. You either accept God being responsible for everything that happens in the world, or you don't. There's no in between. You don't pick and choose.
okay? Because that's the coward's route. And again, I agree with you, Juicy, but that's what those people were programmed. They're only doing what they were programmed to do. I can't fault them because some of them don't know no better. Now, some do know better and they just choose not to change. You know, some know the truth and they just choose to ignore it. But nothing we can do. The only thing we could do is deal with ourselves. All right, what else we got? Yeah, Jesus. Right. Anybody, that's why I laugh, man. People that practice Greco-Roman Christianity, and most people in America do, they don't realize real Christianity, the Coptic Christians of ancient Egypt, the name would never even be used. The real Coptic Christians, the Christians that study Aramaic, the Maronite Christians, the Syriac Christians that actually read the Bible in its correct perspective will tell you it's saying a whole nother fucking thing. But you get these, you know, people here, unfortunately, in this country, and again, they get captivated by whatever millions of sects of Christianity that they're involved in. I mean, shit. There's going to be a long-ass line in heaven, man, because everybody that's a Christian claims their religion is right. I don't care if it's non-denominational, you got Pentecostal, you got Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, you got Catholic, you got Episcopalian, you got Protestant, the list goes on and on. Apparently, Jesus is a God of confusion, because I know if that was me, somebody need to pop the fuck out the sky and say, bam, this is what you should be calling yourself. And don't say they're all Christians, because Christian was a term of mockery in the book of Acts. Jesus never referred to himself as a Christian. You can't find it anywhere. The word Christian appears in the Bible one time, and it appears in the book of Acts chapter 26, verse 11. Go look it up. And it was a mockery that the Romans gave to his disciples. It's like calling them Christites in Greek, like as a mockery. So I don't know why people today think that's such a glorious title to call themselves. It's actually an insult. You can't find me nowhere where Jesus called himself a Christian or instructed his followers to refer to him and refer to themselves as Christians after he left. It's not there. But again, when you read the Bible in poor English translations and you don't understand, you don't need to even be a linguistic scholar. When you know no Greek, no Aramaic, no Hebrew, no Arabic, you're putting the translation in the hands of other people that don't know the shit. And then it's so fucked up, they got to make the original King James Version, the New King James Version, the Good News Bible, the Oxford Annotated Bible, the New Jerusalem Bible. I could go on and on and on. So obviously God is mad confused about how clear his word is that every X amount of time he's got to constantly revise it. So with the real word of God, please stand the fuck up. Okay, I'll be on this shit all day tearing up. Okay, it ain't nothing but a snap of the fingers to me. But people don't want to think like that. A religious person, hey, you're crazy. That's blasphemous. That's evil what you're saying. Good. Oh, well, so be it. It's also evil when you enforce your way of thinking and ideology on somebody who doesn't agree with it. See, now that the shoe's on the other foot, it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to take it on the chin, if you understand what I'm saying. All right, what else we got? Peace to Raven Hecker. Not sure if you're still here. No, Kiona, you're not wrong for trusting broke sorcerers. Look, let me say this. All right. It's just like all these people that claim to be connected to Egypt. They say they descend from the line of great kings and queens and pharaohs. And we know the real pharaohs practice heck of black magic. They were master sorcerers and magicians. Have you ever seen a broke pharaoh? Have you? Look, if you claim to have sorcerer or sorceress powers and you're a magician and you're not successful on any level, no, I would not trust that person either at all. Simple. That's correct. I'm going to read a comment David put towards Mythos. As always, I say in what works for me, bro, you got to follow your own spirit. And that's it. That's the key. And I've said a million times over the years in many videos, what works for you may not work for the next person and vice versa. And that's okay. But what determines the factor if it's good or not as far as working is the results. If you're doing something and you get results and somebody else ain't feeling it, who gives a shit? Just vice versa. If you see somebody else doing shit that you're not feeling, but that person's getting results, then leave it alone. It works. That's what this is about. I don't care what it is you do. I don't care if you build an altar of marshmallows and you claim that you tapped into the marshmallow god, if I can see that damn result and that harmony between your subjective and your objective that is real, I applaud you. Keep worshiping the marshmallow god, or activating the I'm just, just clowning. But that's my point. And that's an excellent point. And that's an excellent statement by David. Follow your own spirit. Whatever's going to work for you is for you. And don't force it on anybody else, because if somebody hasn't had a similar or like experience, they're not going to be able to connect with it. Now, if they have a similar connection in that area, then they could maybe relate. But that's part of understanding. That's a Luciferian characteristic. We know that there are many methodology and ways of thinking. Is all of it going to be in line with our personal ideology? Absolutely not. But we know that and we embrace that. And we don't shoot anybody down for that. There's a lot of things that I don't vibe or resonate with, but I don't knock somebody for it, because look, I see people like burning ancestral money. Let me tell you why I think it's just my opinion. Now, people do it. They claim to get results, but this is how I think. You took real money to buy fake ancestral money to burn. Let me say that again. You took real money to buy ancestral. There's occult shops and websites and people that sell this so-called, which by the way is a Chinese funeral custom. It's an Asian custom, which I don't know how it crept into the occult and African spiritualism, but it has. And I don't even want to waste my time addressing that shit. But people will take real money, real currency, to buy fake ancestral money and burn that ancestral money in front of the altar to get real money. I mean, do I need to say anything else? If you're going to burn money, why don't you just use the real money you have? What makes the other money special? Because somebody said they blessed it and there's a certain energy on it? That's fucking spooky to me. I don't do it at all. If you do that, I'm sure there are people, I want to be clear. If you do the ancestral money thing and it works for you, power to you. I just think to me, it's a complete waste of time. I would never do it. That's just me. But if you do it and it works, maybe that's how powerful your mind is. But I'm looking basic before I go spook. I'm like, wait, you're taking real money to buy fake money and you're burning the fake money to get real money. That just doesn't make sense. My mind doesn't function like that. That's just me. But if you're doing it and it works, power to you. I've never done it, and I could say at this moment right now, I probably don't have any intention to ever do it. All right? I'm just using that as an example. And that's true. Good statement by Angel. Remember, let me read a statement. Funny ancients, mankind had all the same needs and created the archetype according to their projections. Yes, because remember, when you're reading these ancient texts, they're trying to describe something that took place internal, like the chaotic waters of Nun, what takes place in the womb of the female. And they try to externalize it by either manifesting the deity in you and then creating an external story that the individual can connect. And these texts got passed down through time. This is why some people mistaken it and took it literally sometimes. That is a very good point. And that's basically what the ancients did. They had to externalize something that was internal so the collective were able to connect to it. That goes by studying, learning, and understanding. Then we got these fools that want to have these debates, the ancient Kemetic way of thinking against the Black Hebrew Israelites. Who gives a shit? I wouldn't even waste I can't get that precious time. I wouldn't even waste time listening to a nonsensical debate like that, because that's precious time I can't get back. But it's so amazing how we get distracted with nonsensical debates that really, at the end of the day, my thing is, and then what? When it's an ego fest, because I want to prove what I know more than you, and you know less than. After that's all said and done, my next question is, and then everybody got the dumb look on their face, and then what? All right, after your ego fest, whoever you think won, whatever the crowd, they won, great. Now what? Did it fix any of your problems? Did it put any money in your pocket? Did it make your life better? Did it take you to a whole nother level of spirit? Other than stroking your ego, getting a pat on the back, and making a few dollars from doing a lecture, that's basic bullshit. I'm talking about in its totality. At the end of the day, what does it really do? The problem is with a lot of those platforms. As I said before, social media, YouTube, things like this could be a great tool. You could reach a lot of people. I just put information out. That's why, ever from day one, I have no comments activated on my video. I'm not interested in that. This is information. Take with it, do what you want with it. I don't care. Don't care if you love it, like it, or hate it. That's personal. You have to wrestle with that. Couldn't care. I'm not interested in getting, and I did that for years. Those that know me when I was young, going back in my 20s and 30s, I would look for people to debate. I'd get a high out of debate. I would get a kick out of arguing and debating with you. It was like a high for me. But as you get older and you mature, I'll only pull that sword out if somebody gets real stupid and it's necessary. And it's usually not as you get older. So that's not what my goal and my job is. Not that I can't. I just don't have the time for it no more. My thing is, and my job, what I feel is I just put information out through this platform. I think that's how we should use social media. But it's become, a breeding ground of a cesspool of computer gangsters, people that hide behind screen names and talk shit and don't want to show their faces, don't want nobody to know their real name. But the real people that are on here doing this, like myself, you see me. You know who the fuck I am. You know how to contact me. So when some little punk ass gets on here once in a blue moon, we'll get him occasionally in the room here, and they hide behind a fake screen name and talk shit, that shit is irrelevant to me. I ain't gonna feed into that nonsense. And if you want, I got a call-in number. If you really want to talk shit, call in. Introduce yourself to us. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're located. Stop hiding behind a motherfucking keyboard talking shit, because that don't impress me. I don't care about that. And so I don't even waste my time feeding into that. All right? All right, what else we got? But good point by Angel. Angel says we create gods, demons, angels, deities in our image. That's right. We're constantly creating them, because everything we absorb and what we study, if it's deity, religion, philosophy, dogma, we are creating and manifesting that via our subconscious mind. And that's why I said earlier, when you do ritualistic work and you see an image where a deity manifests or appears to you, I always liken it to, look at the example of worldwide over the years, the many apparitions of the Virgin Mary that people have claimed to see, right? They all have a very similar description. Why do you think that is? Well, if you've grown up through a religion your whole life, there's a certain image of the Virgin Mary that's promoted. This woman in a white gown, a shawl over her head. Yeah, it might vary in complexion. In Mexico, Our Lady of Guadalupe, they see her looking more Latino, but the structure of the image is the same. It's always that image with the head shawl and the long flowing robe and, whatever. My whole point is, when that's constantly stamped in your subconscious from an early age, there's a reason why. Whatever subjective experiences people are having and seeing, that it's similar. Well, that's no different when it works with us. If you're studying about Kali and you have an image of Kali that you picked out and it's on your altar and you keep seeing these images, your mind, whether you're conscious of it or not, is creating and giving that deity form via on the images that you're feeding yourself. That's why I said, even though earlier I said it might be appearing to you on the surface that you're having an external experience, but at all point of origin and its manifestation began in the mind. That's why the first Hermetic principle states, all is mental, mental is all, and the universe is mental. Everything is created in here. And you understand, regardless, even if it manifests on an external level, you were the one that you were the power that made it manifest. Not no spook god in the sky. You didn't connect to some mysterious, spooky force that you can't explain. You might think that in your mind, because that's something that's been taught to us through a lot of philosophies and dogmas. But unfortunately, that's just not the truth. We don't want to accept the power that we have within ourselves. We don't want to accept the power that we are gods and goddesses, and not in the mythological, religious, monotheistic sense, not that bullshit, not the spook fairy tale god, that we are the gods and goddesses, the sole controllers and sole governors of our spirituality. Being a goddess or goddess means you're responsible. Take responsibilities for your actions, your successes, and your failures. That's the difference. I'm talking about that type of god or goddess. So people give me, oh man, religious people say, well, how can you be God? No, let me get out of your mind. You're missing the fucking point. If you're thinking you're monotheistic, biblical, religious God, when we say God or goddess, we don't mean that shit. I don't mean that type of God. That's a fairy tale God. That God's not a reality. That God is a punk. He's weak. He's wicked. He's more bloodthirsty than all of these things you think on this path that are evil and demonic. Because that God of the Bible sure as hell loved the smell of dead animal flesh burning. Sure loved blood being splattered all over his altars in the Old Testament. He was so sick and corrupted that he had to so-called bring into existence his own physical son and watch him get tortured and beaten to a bloody pulp. He apparently loved the sight of that. Think about how stupid that shit is. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Let me ask any one of you motherfuckers out here that got a kid. Would you so willingly sacrifice your son? Oh, fuck. No, your ass wouldn't. If somebody broke into your house, you're going to send your only begotten son to go check out who broke into the house, or you going to go do it yourself? That's a punk God. Anybody that wants to deal with that type of God, it tells you. I ain't into that type of narcissistic, mind-controlling, manipulative, bloodthirsty type of God. I don't deal with that crap, okay? So if that's your choice, that's your choice. But I don't see any glory or glamour in that shit. And I laugh because religious people will criticize other cultures that practice animal sacrifice. And man, they were killing more animals in the Bible than any other culture or religion you can find on record. Shit, what is it? In Samuel, when David and them came back from war, they slaughtered, what was it, like 100,000 oxen? Now, that can't be literal. Anybody that believes that's literal, that's crazy. That's a lot. What God requires the blood sacrifice of 100,000 animals? That is sick and twisted. And then when you read in Leviticus, when the Levitical priest would take the sheep or the lamb and they would slit their throat, God requests that to all four corners of the altar he spills, and it was pleasing to him. They spill the blood on each four corners. This is why you see in the Catholic Mass, when you watch the priest, when he's consecrating through transubstantiation the Eucharist or the communion wafer and the wine, when they so-called doing the act of changing the wine and the bread into the body and blood of Christ, he does that. He goes to the four corners. When you watch, a traditional priest will do it. Most of them will do it. They'll go front, back, side, reenacting the Levitical practice. But you don't see nothing wrong with doing a magical ritual, and they really convince you to believe that you're drinking the body and the blood of Christ. They call it transubstantiation. Go look it up. They literally say that literally becomes. Now, are you practicing cannibalism now? Because spiritually, you're accepting a form of cannibalism. See, this is shit they don't like to hear. They get mad. And this is why people that email me get their ass handed to them, because when you come with that I know all be right complex, you're going to get your ass handled to you. Don't even waste your time. Because it's very simple to address that. That's kindergarten shit. Anybody that believes, and that's fair. If you believe in that biblical nonsense, you might as well believe in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You might as well believe in Jack and the Beanstalk, okay? Because it's the same stuff. It's fairy tales. It's mythology. The only life and power that it has is the life and power you give it. I tell religious people, stop talking about the devil. The more you talk about the devil, you give him life, because the devil, Christianity would not even cease to exist, because Christianity is centered around destroying the devil. So I just tell, stop talking about the motherfucking devil. Your problem is solved. But you spend all this time and energy preaching to people, the devil must be destroyed, the devil's a liar, blah, blah. Then it's like, stop talking about it. Because the more you talk about it, bring it up, you give it life. So the real question then, does God need the devil, or does the devil need God? Ask yourself that question. And does God need you more so than you need him, or whatever you refer to it as? Because without you relying on its dependence, it becomes obsolete. We want to think like that. See, that's how somebody who's on their own path to self-mastery thinks, whether others like it or not. It's nothing personal. And again, I want to make this clear. I have no problem with anybody's religious belief. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist. The problem I have is when you force your beliefs on other people and you cannot tolerate another opinion that's obsolete to your ideology. That's where it becomes a problem. Okay, so I want to make that clear. All right. So, okay. So I see, well, I'll kind of comment, and I know that was kind of back and forth between Mythos and John. There is between philosophy, psychology, and cognitive dissonance, okay? Or cognitiveness, whatever we want to call it. Carl Jung, as we know, who's probably one of the most popular psychologists, is utilized a lot on this left-hand path. Because psychology is connected to this path because it unlocks or assists you in understanding how the mind works and operates. And I'll keep it as simple and basic as I can, because this could be a very detailed subject. And you will find a lot of left-hand path practitioners study psychology on a regular basis because it's part of their understanding of this path. And I think when you're working with your subjective realm, you should have an understanding of psychology. Now, personally, me, I know a lot of circles that want people, I mean, Carl Jung is upheld. He's kind of boring to me. I know he's put out a lot of information. It's just me. The foundation, not just to Carl Jung, but any good works on psychology can assist you on this path. Philosophy varies because philosophy is a system. Every spiritual system, even on the left-hand path, has a philosophy to it because the philosophy is the practical application of the system. It's the method that one uses to apply the system. So there's a philosophy for Luciferianism. There's a philosophy for vampirism. There are different philosophies, but the goal is to obtain the same objective, self-mastery. But the philosophy in doing it is going to vary depending on the path. So again, in a quick nutshell, there is a connection to all of those things: philosophy, psychology, cognitive, or forensic psychology. Now, forensic psychology, if we're dealing with investigation and analyzing facts and data, that's important to a degree. But I do want to say this. What I have found out on this path, and I recently, this is a long story. We have to be careful we don't over-intellectualize things. That happens a lot on this path. I'm not, and let me make it clear when I say that, I'm not saying to go into anything blind and ignorant, but sometimes, as I said, in ritual and working with the subjective, there is not always a factual or scientific explanation for it. Sometimes you tap into the unlimited power of your subconscious mind and it taps you into areas that you go, what the fuck? So we have to be careful that we do our research, we do our due diligence, we gather our facts, and we're sound. But we always have to remember to be open and receptive to the spirit and the ritualistic work and let that do its job and take its course where we can absorb it. Because sometimes when we over-intellectualize shit, we can destroy, I talk about this all the time, we can negate and destroy the experience and the full embracing of it. So I'm just speaking that in general, but there is a connection to all that. Philosophy, psychology, etc. And again, you'll find deep practitioners on the left-hand path. They study psychology deeply. They study it on an intense. And like I said, Carl Jung is probably the most utilized and most popular psychologist and author on the left-hand path. So there is a connection. God showing some robot-like experience from the movie Get Out. I'm not sure. That could be a multitude of things. Akpan Faku, when putting on a deific mask, are you to focus solely on their aspects and how do you maintain it on a day-to-day basis? All right. So when you're putting on the deific mask and you're doing a ritual, you just become. You're not really supposed to focus on any. The focusing is the leading up to it of the evoking and embodying the energy. But once the spirit you have completely embodied it, it's hard to explain it in words. You just become it. And how you maintain it is because its effects are continual. It opens up a certain level of awareness and understanding that continues even after you're done with the ritual work. So it's something that stays with you consistently. And you'll find that you access it, and it's not complicated, where it could be moments where answers to things that you didn't really have answers for start coming to you, where you just see yourself in situations that were beneficial for you that may not have been prior to doing the work. So yes, the effects are continuous. It's not something that you really got to force, because the work leading up to it is what opens the door. It's kind of something, once the embodied place, you become. That's what I mean. When you put on the deific mask, don't ask who, what, and why no more. You become the who, what, and why. And that's just simply saying, that. So hopefully that helped. Okay, I see what you meant earlier, David. The D-Vermis Mysterious. Okay, good. It's a bugged out book. I thought that's who you were referring to when you said Paranormal Chaos earlier. I just wasn't sure. But yeah, and again, as I said on whenever was it Thursday? whenever I did that last week. Obviously, you study and read it. I mean, there's some graphic stuff in there, like with the human sacrifice. Know how to adjust that to your path. More, you want to apply that on sacrificing a part of yourself, an attribute that may not be productive for you. So I'm just using that as an example. The work can be very effective in there if you look at it. Use some critical analyzing it, critical thinking, and you can create some powerful ritualistic work from it. It's a powerful tool. You got the book. Be interesting to see if you create or do any work from it. Be interesting to hear that. Akpan asks, when doing road work, clearing, is it better to put on the deific mask or just let the energy work for you? I think when you start out first, it's best just to activate the energy and let the energy work for you at first. I think when you become a little bit more experienced, and if you're at that experienced state, you can use either method, whatever you see fit, whatever one you think you feel confident in working with. But you can use both. But I would say, and if it's not you, Akpan, I'm speaking in general, I would say if you're brand new, I wouldn't recommend doing that right out the gate. I think it's better if you get acclimated with the energy first before you try to embody it, because you may not fully understand it. You may not be able to really embrace it because it might be a little bit too much for you. So I don't recommend that out the gate. All right. Okay, Liz says, oh, okay, Benini, that's cool, but Yoruba is pronounced Orisha. Okay. Ori meaning head. Yeah, Ori is actually a deity, right? That's what we mean when we say the deity that rules your head. The Ori or the Orisha or the deity that rules your head. When you go through, that's what they'll call it in houses of Santeria, your guardian angel, your Orisha that rules your head, right? But yeah, it's not really a big deal. It's minor details. Mythos says, if you got chaos in your life, then you're on the right path because you know how the opportunity to activate and discover your power. True. Kathara Mansi, yeah, sometimes your own, yes, this is very true. Sometimes your own beliefs can be a big blockage. That was one of my blockages, most definitely. And that will be, you will find, especially for people in the beginning and early stages of this path, that is their number one problem. They can't let go of their old way of thinking, methodology, spiritual practices, and whether they're conscious of it or not, they let it creep into their new path, and it creates these issues. This happens all the fucking time. And again, as I said earlier, it's normal in the beginning stage, very normal. Is it going to disappear overnight? Absolutely not. Is it going to disappear altogether? For the most part, yes. But occasionally, the experienced practitioner will find themselves, they'll find it popping up every now and then. But the difference is they'll have control over it. They'll be able to catch it, eliminate it, stomp it. Newer people in earlier stages tend to struggle with it, and it can become an issue if you don't address it consistently. But that is definitely true. It can definitely be a major blockage. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. Amazing, Nina. Yeah. As long as you catch the videos, cool. All right, hold on. Shit jumped on me again. All right. Try to get through the rest of these questions and wrap it up. I didn't realize I've been on this damn long. All right. So here we go. $94.86 solar return tomorrow. Please go live tomorrow. Actually, we got a private thing tomorrow, but we'll see. Good question by VO Corner. What's your take on performing basic animal sacrifice, i.e. chicken, pigeon, without initiation? Thank you. All right, if this question was asked to me years ago, being initiated in Santeria, crowned Oshun, they would tell you you should one. Now pigeons, that's not a complicated animal to sacrifice. But anything that involves the knife, yes, you should have the initiate from a traditional perspective. And this comes from somebody that participated in a lot of animal sacrifice. You would have to be initiated in the knife. You should be taught the right way to slaughter animals without them suffering, right? Now, that's from a traditional perspective. Now, if you ask me this now, today, not really being engulfed, leaving Santeria years ago, and not really, I mean, I still work with the deities, but on a different level, not in a traditional way in any shape, form, or fashion. Same thing with Palo, being scratched in Palo. I don't deal with all that traditional stuff anymore. I left it years ago. If you're taught the right way to do it, whether it needs to be validated by somebody that says you've been initiated in a community or circle is irrelevant. I think if you're taught, if you know the right method to doing it, the correct method, you know how to snap the necks if it's a pigeon. You know where to slit the animals, the correct way to cut the jugular without them suffering. You really do. Now the question is, well, how do you know? Only you know. As long as you know you're doing it the right way, I don't see a problem with it. That's personal. I'm not telling anybody to do it or not do it. Let me make that clear. First of all, if you've never done it or you have no experience in it, I don't think you should fuck with it. And if you have work that needs to be done in that avenue, you should get somebody that's initiated in it and knows the correct way to do it. So I want to make that clear. So by all means, I'm not telling anybody what to do and not. I can only tell you my experience with it and where I'm at now with it. I don't really fuck with it because it's not really necessary, in my opinion, anymore. I do understand the process of blood animal sacrifice and how it works. That's fine. I understand that energy is transformed into the blood of the animal and it's up to the gods to an extent. It's more tradition. But that would be my answer to that. As long as you're kind of sure. Pigeons, I mean, I've done that all the time. That's not complicated. The roosters, chickens, goats. If you do any of that stuff, I think that should be left. If you're not initiated, somebody that knows how to do it, and they don't need to be an Ethan in Santeria. There's people that slaughter animals. You should be taught by somebody, even somebody that that works at slaughterhouses, kosher, that does the whole process of dealing with kosher meats and kills animals, what they call in a kosher or halal way in Arabic. You should have that knowledge because through those processes, it's taught to slaughter the animal with no pain or suffering. It's a quick kill. That's just my thoughts on that. All right. Yes, Akpan, you can. Yes, it is possible to put on the mask of the 72 demons in the body. That most definitely. Yes, there are schools of thought that teach that the 72 demons of the Goetia corresponds to the 72 higher chakras, which really is a sub breakdown of the 9. It's really a 7 and a 2. You put the 7 and the 2 together, you get 9. They teach that there's 7 chakras, but there's 2 higher chakras they don't talk about, which is really the 72. It's not literally 72. It's then broken down into subdivisions of that 72. Yes, there are philosophies and schools of thought there. So really, it's the 9 again. 9 is a sacred number in the occult. In ritualistic work, we toll the bell 9 times. When we open, we close it 9 times. Gates. It's a symbolic thing. So yes, really the 72 is the 7-2. It's the 9. Any way you look at it, any way you slice it, it's the 72. Now it's broken down into what we call 8. 9 times 8 is 72. It gets into a whole system. What you really want to focus on is the 9. The 72 is actually the 9. Because they'll say, when we look at the subtle body, most people teach about the 7 chakras, but then occult and spiritual paths say there's actually 9 chakras. They don't talk about the higher chakras when we go beyond the crown, the 8th and the 9th chakra. And that's really the 72, which that's broken up into subdivisions and subplanes, etc. And then on these planes and dimensions, this is where you can connect and correlate these demons to each chakra. So yes, there are schools of thoughts now. Yeah, that can be beneficial if you know how to apply that and work it. Most definitely. Yes, in correlation to activating the chakra. All right. Last says, IMO, personal experiences beat theory 100% of the time. I agree. I like the saying, knowledge unused is ignorance. Good point. Nikita says, good advice, thank you. And you have to try. Okay, so to your experience earlier. Cool. All right, so that's a nonsensical statement. You said a YouTuber said if you don't feel his presence, he doesn't. Who the fuck is they to say he doesn't like you and won't work with you? I mean, what? They got a personal community, a personal phone line. And I would totally disagree with that statement. Now, there are some times you might find you do work and you just don't resonate with it. That don't mean that's religion. That's a religious statement. He doesn't like you. Who are they to pass judgment and come to that conclusion and not know the full extent of what's going on? I think that's a ridiculous statement. Again, I take that statement comes from a person who has an agenda. Sounds like that person wants to make themselves sound heavy and deep because they probably have a connection with it and they want to make themselves look special and try to downgrade you as if you don't have that power or connection. That's stupid. Don't agree with that. Occult, I saw that story with the people in Texas. They went berserk because they ran out of Popeye's chicken sandwich. That's crazy ass shit. You believe this shit? The world's coming to a fucking end where people storm a drive-through window with guns because they were upset that there's got to be something in them goddamn Popeye chicken sandwiches. I heard them things is driving people crazy, man. That is some funny ass shit. It's funny you bring it up. I was just reading that shit this morning. I have this app called I think it's called BuzzFeed, and they tend to tap into some crazy stories. I like it because they have stories you don't really see. I'm sure people are familiar with it. If you're not, you want a really good news feed app. I mean, some of it's crazy, it's some bullshit. Some of it's but they do cover some stories you don't hear about elsewhere. I saw that on BuzzFeed this morning. I was scrolling through my phone. I said, "What the fuck is this?" Mob storms Popeye's chicken drive-through window. I fucking go click it, and I see these motherfuckers got mad because they ran out of fucking chicken sandwiches. And let me tell you something, man. World's a fucking mess, man. This is how you know shit is out. Shit is out of whack. When motherfucking Popeyes because they had the chicken sandwiches. I thought it was some shit with the hurricane. I thought like people were trying to loot a place for food or something. But I said, well, goddamn. Texas, boy. They must love them Popeye sandwiches in Texas. Yeah, amazing, Nini. That is a good point. I suggest that, not just with Lucifer. All right, let me read her comment for those that didn't see it. I'm not an expert, but before Lucifer, try to build some kind of bond with them. Okay, not sure what that end part means. I don't know. But yeah, I always, in some shape, form, or fashion, with any deity out the gate, especially more intense ones like Lucifer, get acclimated with the energy. I agree. Do simple things like a basic invocation, a meditation, a simple spiritual exercise or practice. As you said, you use the term build a bond. That same thing. Get yourself acclimated and familiar with the vibration and frequency of the energy. I don't ever recommend just going into it and not doing, some basic stuff prior. But again, a good thing would be a simple invocation. Use the sigil of Lucifer, maybe to activate his presence via meditation. Any of those simple, basic, more so exercises. I wouldn't call that a full-blown ritual, but I would do a basic spiritual exercise or practice to create that bond or create getting acclimated with that. Energy. Good point. I've said the same thing about the Bible before. Yeah, and I agree. The stuff I was talking about. Look, again, I want to make it clear. If you're a practicing Christian, Muslim, and Jew, and you're a respectful, you live a good life, and it's done great things for you, changed your life, I applaud you. I really do. I have no problem with that. I don't have a problem. I don't care what you are, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, Taoist, Zoroastrian. I don't care what it is. That's fine. If it's making you a better and more productive person in the world, I salute you. I have a problem when people get ignorant and upset when they hear things that don't go along with their personal faith and belief in religion and ideology. And then they want to attack others as if they know everything and they're right. And that's the only reason why I get a little excited and animated about it. I like to have fun with it. It's nothing serious. It only becomes serious when you try to force, you start telling people you need to be saved. You're going to hell. You're going to be judged. That is all ignorant idiocy that is diluted and programmed into people's minds, and it's fueled by fear and ignorance. People that believe that nonsense, they are fueled by fear and ignorance. And religion, that's the number one fuel that keeps it going, is fear and ignorance. If you take those two combinations and you scare the shit out of people, if you do good, you're going to go to this place called heaven. Oh, if you don't follow everything you're told to do, you're going to burn in this lake of fire for eternity. That's all mythology, spookism. That's fueled by fear and ignorance. I told you, the number one disease that runs rampant on the planet, and in some cases there's no cure, it's called ignorance. And ignorance means to ignore the facts and not know. That's all it means. When you're ignorant, you ignore. There's a root word ignorance, to ignore. What are you ignoring? The facts. You don't use basic common sense and reasoning. So ignorance, henceforth ignorance is birth. Peace, Mandela born. Alicia. Okay, that's a comment. I'm going to skip that. Well, let me read a good statement. I know this was towards Nikita, but this really applies to everybody. Alicia said earlier, nothing is outside of yourself. If you like to work with deities, archetypes, you work with the energies within yourself. You have to ask yourself this question: are you ready to wake up to the energies within you? All the deities, archetypes resonate within you. This is so true. Self-explanatory. I don't even need to add nothing to this. Work with you in different ways and different times if you are ready or not. That's key. And that's what I mean when I say sometimes you go into the work, you activate a road clearing energy for one reason. For say, I need money. But the road clearing energy says, no, your personal life is fucked up. You're with some deadbeat dad or some deadbeat female that's draining you. And it turns your life upside down in that area. You're like, wait a minute, why the fuck I went and did work with this archetype to clear my financial path? And why is it turning my life into madness and chaos? Because remember, those deities bring about the change you need sometimes. And you confuse the change you need with the change you want. And as Alicia is saying here, sometimes it's whether you're ready or not. And that comes with educating yourself. So be careful. You go on to working with Kali. I love Kali. I'm so Kali. And then you don't realize Kali comes and creates a turbulent turmoil, and a tornado rips through your whole entire life and turns it upside down. And you're like, what the fuck? It's not what I set out to do work with Kali for, but Kali don't give a fuck, right? Santissima Muerte don't give a fuck. Change. You want things right? All right. You might have thought it was the money thing, but it's that deadbeat person you got laying next to you. That's the person that's draining your money, right? But you don't want to accept that. You think you got money problems. It could be that deadbeat motherfucker that ain't working a job, and you're giving him all your money, and you're supporting a grown-ass man that acts like a child and sits on the fucking couch all day and plays PlayStation while you go out there and bust your ass all day, and you come home and that motherfucker's still sitting on the couch playing PlayStation. Then you want to know why you got money problems. Kyle says, that's your money problem right there. I'm getting rid of that motherfucker. It could be vice versa. You got a gold digging heifer. You out there busting your ass all day, working 2 and 3 jobs. She want to sit home all day, do nothing, look pretty, go get her hair and nails done, and drain you of all your money. And then you want to know why well, your problem is laying next to you. And sometimes Callie goes, bam, there's your motherfucking problem. You want money? That motherfucker got to go. And you ain't ready for it because you love him so much. He's so fine. Or she's so fine. She got a fat ass. And you just don't want to leave that person because you're so into them physically, but you don't realize mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, they raping you to death. And they draining your ass. And then you want to know why you got motherfucking problems. That's why you got problems. That's how these energies work. Sooner you figure it out, the better off you will be. All right, what else we got? A good point by Alicia. I agree. Oh, what we got here? Quan Faku, yeah, I was talking about it. Might as well burn losing lottery tickets. I agree. Look, Again, I know some people utilize, if you do that ancestral money thing and burn it, it works for you. I'm power to you. It doesn't make sense to me. I've never done it and I don't have any plans to do it. I just don't see the logic of using real money to buy fake money and burn the fake money to get real money. If that's not mental fuckery, I don't know what is. So really, it's a mental thing. You're really the one. Do you really need the money? If you got that type of mental power, you're good. I think you got to give yourself more of the credit. Again, I know motherfuckers that go on. I know motherfuckers that go on Amazon and buy ancestral money with their real money to burn fake money to get their real money. Burn the real money. What the fuck's the point? I don't get. And we didn't even elaborate to the fact that's an Oriental funeral custom. I'm just how that's transitioned over to this path. Anyway, you get the point. What else we got here? Juju cakes. Does one need to do rituals? No. I manifest just with intention and meditation. Yes, there are a lot of people. I had a brilliant brother in my last class session. And a lot of the work that we do in the classes that we assign throughout the week, everything he did was a mental visualization or some type of meditation or visualization. And then he would turn his assignments in just describing. And that's beautiful. If that's your skill and gift, because really in essence, the altars and the rituals, those are just physical, tangible tools. You actually are the living altar. You are actually the ritual. Those are just implements that enhance the work. I want to make this clear. When I'm doing magic that I've had the time to plan out, that's in my ritual chamber on my altar. I do magic driving to work. You can do magic while you're driving to work in your car. I do magic while I'm taking flights, while I'm in the plane. I do magic at workings at natural outside places such as lakes, rivers, oceans. Magic outside, outdoors in cemeteries, sometimes with implements and without. So I want to make that clear. You are the walk, you are the altar, you are the ritual, right? When you have a ritual chamber, which I suggest that everybody should have, that's when you have your planned out magic. That's when you have your powerful magic that you take your time and plan. But you're not going to always have the time. Sometimes you got to do chaotic magic, chaos magic on the fly. And one of the most powerful magical rituals you can do is dream work. I do a lot of that. You can do stuff, like I said, I'll do something where I utilize sigils, activate them before I sleep. I focus on them, lock the image of the sigil in my mind, and I go to sleep just focusing on the sigil. And it'll take me into a dream state and things that are connected to that sigil. So there's so many ways to utilize magic. It's not just at the chamber or your altar with rituals. That's one aspect of it. This is what I just suggest to people, not mandatory. And again, if you get results like that and it works for you and that's your strength, enhance it, utilize it, that's fine. But I do suggest people should experience, I try to teach, especially students that take my classes, whether you utilize some of these things or you don't, you should get the full-blown experience of a full-blown black magic ritual at an altar I'm talking about the bells, whistles, and all the trimmings. Just to have it. Whether you utilize it at all consistently or a little bit is irrelevant. It's just something you should experience because each level of ritualistic work, whether it's on a high mental frequency like that, whether it's something that has more tangibles, whether it's something outdoor in nature, whether it's something on the fly, whether it's, there was a brother that was in here a while ago. He came up with a good idea and I actually tried it. He did a ritual, created a ritual, going into his bathroom in the shower in the complete dark and visualize that you're bathing in the chaotic waters of Nun. That's some powerful shit. Taking a shower in pitch black dark. Well, obviously don't bust your ass and slip on those. So, but you get my point. So that there's so many ways to apply magic. So yes, if that works for you, that's a great thing. Damn, you can't even get food after 5 p.m. where you live? Damn, man, that's crazy. Keona says, I'm dreading doing shadow work. Been heavily angry and know it's going to be emotional. It will be. It will be emotional. It'll be painful. There'll be difficulty. But resisting it and trying to bury it, prolong it, put it off, it's just going to make it more persistent and more tough. The more time you let go, buy and don't do nothing, it's just going to compound and build up. And yes, I'm not going to lie to you, it will be emotional. If you got traumas and you're uncovering, maybe you were sexually abused. Maybe you had a horrible relationship with your mother or father. Maybe you were picked on growing up in school. Maybe you're dealing with a lot. That's tough. A lot of that emotional trauma comes up, and you really realize through your shadow work how that's affected you, good and bad. Sometimes people say, shitty things like that strengthen you. They do. If you deal, and I know a lot of those things like that can be traumatic, but you got to deal with it. And sometimes it's lack of self-confidence. It's lack of confidence in yourself, lack of expression. You might find you're severely introverted and you don't know why, which can be a good or a bad thing. I'm just throwing things out there, but you have to deal with it, embrace it, understand it, and how do you move forward? How do you put them into perspective? And what I mean by perspective, it's not just about this is good or bad, because you can have an anger issue, let's say. So you have a bad temper. You can take that same anger and channel it into something more productive to benefit you. So anger isn't always necessarily a bad thing. It's only bad when it consumes you. You don't know how to channel it. But I could put anger into destroying somebody that's done something fucked up to me. You understand? Or I can put that anger into motivating myself to creating financial opportunities to start my own business or whatever. You could take that energy and transition it. So anger is not always a bad thing, as they teach. It's bad when you have no control over it and it consumes you. Now it becomes bad. That's what shadow work is about. How do I go into that and work with all that stuff? And again, you bring up a good point. It is emotional. It is difficult. It is hard. And release that anger. You got to face it. And you'll once you work through it, you will feel much better about yourself. All right, Occult says, when activating your personal daemon, are you invoking the energy of many deities? I feel different energy at different times depending on my focus, even if it's not on a certain. Yes, you are. Because remember, your personal daemon is your higher self. And there are many fragments of your higher self. All those things you work with, you are them and they are you. So whatever you've activated within you, you've connected it to your personal daemon. Your personal daemon is the high seat. Look at it like as a foundation. Everything filters out from it. So this is why you sometimes could feel that fluctuation of energy in deities. Because remember, the word daemon is the term, it's a Greek term, that the Greeks would use in their writings to describe their more higher intelligent self, the real them. We mean that when we say our personal daemon, not our personal daemon, exorcist, daemon. No, not that. See, that's the Hollywood shit. See, those that are ignorant on this path hear the word daemon or demon, and they go spook. They go back into, remember, the word daemon was transitioned into, that's when monotheism came on the scene. Go look up the word, Google it. They'll tell you. The word daemon, when it was grafted into monotheistic religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, it became negative, and this is where we get that stigmata with Hollywood demons and ghosts and goblins and all that shit. That's not what we mean when we say daemon or personal daemon. We're talking about our higher self or real you, and there are many personal fragments of that. That I did a video on that. If you didn't see it, Occult, it was several months back. Look for a video in the archives, the fragments of your personal daemon, something like that. And I go through everything that you're talking about in that question. It's a very good question. And in fact, you should be aware of that. So yes, most definitely. What else we have? That's yeah, Hecate will shake your world upside down too. Blair, good point. Okay, and Keelan, that's fine. Yeah, and you used it more for deceased relatives, and that's really what it was designed for originally. If I don't know if it produced any financial results for you, but they, and I've heard what's his name talk about again. If it worked, I've heard Sri Gano Grills talk about this. He's a big pusher of that, and that's cool. But my thing is, I don't see the point. I think it's just a custom, but I still works. You're still the facilitator and power of the ritual. I don't believe that dead ancestors are smelling the smoke from the dead money and blessing you with real money. That's just comical to me. But that's originally, as you described, is how it was traditionally used. It was custom to show honor and respect to the ancestors. That got transitioned into the practitioner gets blessed with all this money. So I don't. Yeah, Juju Cakes. Dream work is powerful, man. You could do dream work with any deity. I like to, again, and I think we're done. I'm going to just finish with the last question. I like to use in dream work, I find capturing, like, let me give this example to everybody. Take a sigil, and I've done this with a lot of work with Tiamat. Tiamat, man, let me tell you something. You do work with Tiamat, demons, and dream work, some bizarre, get into all the details. You want Tiamat to take you into the dark, watery abyss and have some experiences. You talk about activating the DMT molecule without using ayahuasca and mushrooms. And this is why I say, look, I ain't knocking people that use hallucinogens. I don't need any of that shit to activate my DMT molecule and have my spiritual trip and tap into the spirits around me. I've heard all the stories. I heard them all describe it. Yeah, I opened everything they describe. You can tap into that without using hallucinogens. And again, I'm not knocking anybody that has, and I've known people that have great experiences with it. I'm just giving you the flip side to it. So I'm not saying, as far as it comes to ayahuasca and using mushrooms and activating the DMT molecule, I'm not telling you not to do that. I am telling you do it with somebody that knows what they're doing, and then make sure you're getting your stuff from trustworthy sources. I am saying that. But my whole point is, we have to have that confidence that we are gods and goddesses. We can activate I've activated my DMT molecule easily through dreamer. I've had some crazy shit that people describe when they use the ayahuasca and the mushrooms and the hallucinogens. I've had that experience without even using them. I'm telling you. And it definitely is easily done through your consistent work through rituals. But I like to use a sigil. I'll use some of the different sigils for Tiamat and the 11 demons of Tiamat. I'll focus on it in a brief meditation before I go to sleep. I'll stare upon the image. I'll capture it in my mind, and I go to sleep. As I close my eyes, I just keep focusing on it. After I've captured the image, and I fall asleep with that. It'll take you, it's like opening a porthole. And then just let be. You talk about activating the DMT molecule, that's activating the DMT molecule. But anyway. All right. Okay, so Alicia, all right. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, the NYC 11 crew, tomorrow night, 8:30, I send the email out. You should have the link. I want to remind you, I put it in the email. If you use a phone or tablet to connect tomorrow night with me, you must download the app, all right? 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be on Thursday night. I have no clue. I'll put something up by tomorrow or sometime. You need to contact me. Email's in the description box if you need a reading, a spiritual reading or a consultation, or you need information on classes. Again, for those that are taking the online session, this Saturday is the final session. People have emailed me, when's the next session? The next session will be early next year. So the upcoming session is going to end this Saturday. I'm looking to do mid-January to start the next session. The curriculum will be, once the session is over, I'll probably have the curriculum done by October, early October. Then we have the event the end of October. Remember, we have Richard K. Page, not this Saturday, next Saturday, September 14th, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on live doing a special show with renowned Luciferian and author Richard K. Page. This will be his 3rd appearance on the show. He's in the UK, so he's 5-6 hours ahead of us in time. So we get him on early on a Saturday. I've been posting that. It's on the Facebook. It's on the Primordial Chaos on Instagram. It's posted in the community section here on YouTube. So mark that down on your calendar. Don't miss that show. If Luciferian is a path for you, tune into that show. That's going to be on September 14th. In between, when this online session is over, in between September and January, I'm going to squeeze in some single individual private classes that you can sign up for. People have requested it. I did one. We had a good response to it. Personal demonic integration. I know some of you in the room now took that class. I will be offering single individual classes in addition to the full sessions. Obviously, the full sessions are very thorough, a little detailed, and going a little bit more in depth. The single classes are good too, but it focuses on one specific topic as opposed to a whole curriculum. So there will be 2, possibly 3 individual classes from September going into early January. For those that emailed me, I responded back to you. The next full online session will be early January of next year. So once this is over, we have to get ready for the event in October. It's not a good time. Last year, I did a session around the holidays. It was a little rough. There was a lot going on. So I don't want to schedule any online full sessions in the months of November and December. That was a little tough last year. It wound up stretching about 8 weeks, and that's kind of too long. I don't want to try to do that if I don't have to. So next early January. So if you're planning on and you want to sign up, just send me an email, and once the curriculum is finished, I'll put you on the list and I'll send you all the information and what it involves. But I'm looking to do that possibly second week in January. We'll start that. And we usually do it on a Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern time. I'm possibly maybe toying with the idea and checking if Sunday might be a better day for some people. I'll look, but we've been doing it on Saturdays. I'll maybe throw out the before I actually start the next session, get feedback if people think a Saturday or a Sunday is better to do it. I like Saturday afternoons. It works for me. Sunday works, but we'll see. So there'll be options for that. And then again, I'll be coming up with some individual classes. Again, if you need to reach me, khnum19@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. You get notifications when I go live. The channel is monetized. There's 2 ways to donate to the channel. There's a money at the bottom now, and you can use the same email, khnum19@gmail.com. If you want to donate to the channel, always greatly appreciated. Other than that, I will see everybody on Thursday night. Peace.